It's a brand new year. Part two.
Attack of the Clones.
Part two. No, it's 2020. We did our first Rage Select podcast from last year. And, now that it's 2020 and we're way past it and everybody else already has their lists out, it's time to do the best games of 2019. And this year, I actually did it instead of just delaying for 8 months like I did normally. So welcome back to Decidedly Different Rage Select Podcast, everyone. I'm Jeff.
I'm John.
I'm Mike.
Oh, no. There's three of us now.
Yeah. For the record, last week when Jeff I was like, hey, so we're going to be doing Best of the Year this week? And he's like, nah, we got to put that off a week. I was like, fuck you, I'm not coming on.
Yeah. Joe was like, listen, man, I made plans that involved Game of the Year. And if you're not doing Game of the Year, I'm going to do something else. So anyway, we have a bunch of lists, a bunch of games. As always, I'm sure there's going to be a crap load of crossover. Just for anybody listening, I have no idea how this is going to go. If we finish up in the first hour, we may jump into some news from the last week. There wasn't really a lot. It was mostly just the Smash
Good week
Brothers.
to do Best of the Year.
We have to do, yes. So, but before we start off this entire thing, I did just want to ask, just generally, just to gauge the room, get the feel a little bit. John, Michael, what do you guys feel about 2019 for video games in general? Like not life or the world or politics, but like video games just as a year. What do you think? Do you think 2019 was do you think it was better than 2018? Do you think it was worse than 2016? Do you think it was worse than 1985? On the same level, better than 1987? John, what did you got?
I thought last year was pretty good, for a good year for video games. Do I think it was better than 2018? I don't know. 2018 was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't fucking know what happened in that year. But was it a good year for games? Yeah. There was a lot of really good games. I literally looked down my list of games that we're going to be talking about, and and actually had to kind of think about some things, and there were some games that didn't make my list that that in other situations might.
Yeah.
And there were also some big disappointments in 2019.
Yes.
Yeah. Fuck you, WWE 2K. WWE 2K. I'll just get that right out of the way right now. So,
Wait, you mean WWE 2K20 isn't your game of the year for 2019?
They can go fuck themselves.
I did not see that coming at all.
That game on New Year's Day, stopped working for everyone.
Yep.
The second it became the year 2020, it stopped working. That's how broken that game is.
It was kind of amazing, actually.
Yep. I feel like we didn't have 2019 as far as disappointments go. It didn't have Fallout. Fallout 76 came out in 2018, but it was the gift that kept on giving all through 2019.
Yeah, that's true.
It was disappointing even into 2019. Yeah.
Yeah. As well as a few other things. But we will get to all that. Michael, how did you feel about 2019?
It was a pretty decent year.
Yeah.
There's a good chunk of remasters and re-releases that year. But overall, I thought it was pretty good. 2018, I remember having, Dragon Ball FighterZ in it. So 2018 was pretty rad. But
and Marvel Spider-Man and Red Dead.
Yes, Spider-Man and Red Dead. 2018
was pretty good. God of War.
2018 was pretty fucking rad. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But 2019 wasn't too bad. Movie-wise, I think was the letdown this year, but game-wise, it was pretty good.
I think my big takeaway from 2019 was, and how much time has elapsed this podcast? This might be a record, 4 minutes in. 2019 for me was the year of Xbox. I got an Xbox One X, and then just Game Pass just kept on.
Oh yeah,
throwing stuff out.
2019 was the year Microsoft got their shit together.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Yeah,
and decided to get competitive in the games market.
The year before they put out a brand new console.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the best time to do it.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know what? We got a lot to go over here, so why don't we start with? I have a category here of games that I thought were worth mentioning that I didn't finish, because part of my criteria, and I don't expect anybody else to deal with this, but part of my criteria is just if I put a game on my list for best game of the year, I have to have finished it. So if I didn't finish it, it doesn't go on my list.
Can I actually say something before you go into that list?
Yes.
I just realized I had a section of my list here of all the games that I played. There's a section called Have Not Actually Played, but Probably Should for the Purpose of This List. So I have no idea if they belong on this list.
All right.
But I will name these 3 games in quick succession.
All right.
Gears 5.
Okay.
Borderlands 3.
Okay.
And Bloodstained Ritual of the Night.
Okay.
That's
I
all
have
my
not
list
played.
that I wanted.
I have not played any of those games. I have no idea if they deserve to be on anyone's top 10s, but they could. I don't know. They were important enough that I actually made a note. When I made this list back in December, I made a note to myself that I should probably try to play those games.
I wanted to start with Bloodstained, but I never got around to it.
Neither of you motherfuckers played Bloodstained?
No, amazingly enough, no.
Damn.
The giant Castlevania nerd I am. I didn't fucking
It's on
look
Game
at
Pass
it.
now.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I was going to start it, and then I started up Quantum Break. Well, thanks.
You, Michael, your video game playing habits, they make me itch. They make me have a scratchy rash on me because it's like, let's get all the
got Sean
games
Ashmore
from 2019. And you're like, I played Quantum Break. And I'm like,
If it makes you feel any better, I was going to play it, but then literally I got during the Christmas holidays, I got a deal on Valkyria Chronicles 4 for the Switch, and so I started replaying it on the Switch. I already own that game on the PS4. And I played it when it came out.
you too. Oh, you
The
too.
look on your face is, I'm not angry, but I'm disappointed.
It's like when there's all these games that have yet to be played, like Bloodstained, and then I'll go to record with Michael, and he comes in and he's like, I started replaying Batman, and John's like, I bought Valkyria Chronicles for the 8th time, and I'm like, God damn it, Bloodstained's like 10 hours long.
And then I started replaying Alan Wake.
No. Okay. All right.
Arkham Origins is pretty good.
Michael, do you have anything? We'll do this one pretty quickly. Do you have anything on the list of like games that you either didn't finish or that apparently, as John has, you meant to play but didn't, that you still think deserve to be talked about?
Besides Bloodstained, it'd be Outer Wilds, actually.
Outer Wilds.
Outer Wilds was a game I started for like all of an hour, but then I had to go do something. That's the only reason I didn't continue it.
Outer Wilds is totally on my like. I didn't finish it, but I think it totally belongs on your list. The problem with Outer Wilds is that there's a point where there's like 12 different objectives that you could be doing, and I'm just like, I don't know which one of these is important. Is like finding a banjo important, or is like trying to navigate through a black hole filled with vines important? and which one is more important?
It's all important, Jeff. It's all equally important.
I got really close to just following a walkthrough to get to like the end of that game.
Oh, okay.
And decided, nah, I don't think I will.
My coworker wouldn't stop telling me about it. He's like, this thing happens, and then this thing happens. Like, I want to play the game. Stop it.
I don't even know if it's possible to spoil that game. I don't know. Maybe
That's the thing. It's not really easy to do.
Yeah.
But it's insane. So, yeah.
So my list for games that I didn't finish, but I did play, and I think deserve mentioning in least to most importance is The Surge 2. And I only put that on this list because I really didn't like The Surge 1. And when The Surge 2 came out, I was like, oh, this is a lot better. Like all throughout the points when they were doing advertising for it, it was just like, oh, here we go, more Dark Souls rips-offs, eye roll. But The Surge 2 actually, in my opinion, worked a lot better than The Surge 1.
Oh, okay.
What else I got here? After Party, which Michael and I played a little bit, and I've been meaning to go back and play, but I just never got around to it. Seems like it's got a lot of potential, and everybody that's played it says it's good. I just didn't get a chance before we did this. Plague Tale Innocence also was one that I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but they're putting on. This is just the Game Pass podcast. They're putting on Game Pass in like 2 weeks, and so I might go back and play it in 4K on my Xbox. Hypnospace Outlaw, I got really close to finishing. I don't know if either one of you
I've never even heard of that.
Remember that? This is one of those. It's like a 1990s style BBS Steam game that's about like this 90s style AOL bulletin board that's all in people's like dreams. They attach to this network, and like you have a dump of all the activity, and so you've got to go through all these like GeoCities pages and try to solve like a mystery and try to figure out what's going on. It's really incredible. I got really close to the end of it, but I never managed to like get all the way through it.
I'm amazed. I've never heard of this.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's Steam only, obviously, but I had a really, really good time with that game. Disco Elysium, I did go back and play about 6 hours of, and I finally saw like why everybody's crazy about it. I don't know that I'm as hooked on it as everybody else was, because I don't know, in those types of old games, I feel like all the dialogue sometimes is like my least favorite part, and that's all that Disco Elysium is, and it's very good dialogue. Also, I think that I was playing it wrong because I was trying to play as a smarty pants Sherlock Holmes, and as I can understand it, there's a whole vector where you just get drunk and declare yourself to be a disco super god and also a cop and lie to everybody and steal shit. And I'm like, I think I should be playing the game that way. I don't think I'm playing this.
That definitely sounds like the better way.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, like outside of when we played it for...
It was like a Patreon
I think
video.
we did it as a Patreon video. Outside of when we played it, I was like, this is on PC, so I'm never going to play it.
Right.
And then I know it's coming out on PS4 and Xbox later this year.
Yes.
So I'll probably play it in 2020 at some point.
Yeah.
Especially if it pops up on Game Pass.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the number of awards that it won at the Game Awards, like, I feel like I kind of wrote that off, but like, it was one of those things where just people wouldn't shut the fuck up about it, and so
Yeah, it came out of left field for me. Just everybody was talking about it. I'm like, I've never heard of this game.
It's real strange and real bizarre. It's a lot like if you've ever played like a role playing game with your friends. That's more about just kind of like do whatever, and then there's just dice rolls, like some of those systems that aren't about like tactics, but they're more just about kind of social interaction in like a fantasy world. That's what it reminds me of. Except it's got this really
a lot of
style.
your fighting in that game is not actual combat. It's like trying to speak your way out of situations.
Oh, okay.
Either that or it's like, how much will do you have to win this combat? Roll your will against the other person's will, and then whoever's got more will wins. So it's not like I flanked the guy, so I got a +2. It's more about this weird, huge list of like mental stat attributes. Outer Wilds was definitely on there. And Sekiro is the last one that I didn't finish, and in a lot of ways I think represents maybe the end of my just whatever Miyazaki puts out, I'm going to buy it and love it. It's going to be on my Game of the Year list, but Sekiro just ended up, I got all the way to the end, and I just banged my head up against that boss for like 3 days, and I couldn't get good enough, y'all. I couldn't get good enough. I'm too old.
It happens.
So
yeah, I think Sekiro is a game I probably would have had on my didn't play, but probably should have.
Yeah,
but I didn't play.
I was good. I didn't care. But I think another one that I could put on that kind of list specifically is my friend Pedro.
Yeah,
because I started it, but I didn't get too far. But I really, really liked what I played.
Yeah, I don't think I played much more of it outside of when we played it on the show.
Yeah.
And
ditto.
I
It's
had
got a steep learning curve.
I actually had it on this list, but then I thought in my mind about whether I actually wanted to go back and play it, and I thought it seemed like an interesting concept, but I wasn't the biggest fan of the execution. But it was at least very interesting.
Yeah.
I would definitely put. Oh, you know what I didn't put on here that should be on here? Ape motherfucking Out.
Ape Out.
Yeah.
That's in my honorable mentions. I finished the hell out of that game.
Ape Out is incredible. All right, well, I tell you what. Let's talk about some disappointments. And
Can I just reiterate WWE 2K20?
I thought you really liked WWE 2K20. You've never said a bad word about it on this podcast, John. You've always told me about how much you liked it, and you think it's the best of the franchise.
Go die in a fire, Jeff.
So for this, instead of just reading everything out, why don't we go around a little bit? John, what do you got? Do you want to pick WWE 2K20?
Well,
do you just want that to be all of your answers?
No, it's not going to be all of my answers, but it definitely is my first answer.
Okay.
Every single fucking time.
Okay, well,
I really hope to God they take a fucking year off and fix their shit.
Yeah.
They're not gonna.
They're not going to.
Because their contract states they have to release a game every year.
Yeah. Michael, what do you got on your disappointments list? Your list, or you don't actually have a
I
disappointment.
don't really have a disappointment list, to be honest. Everything I play is usually just something I already wanted.
Yeah.
I guess Jump Force would kind of be the closest thing to disappointment.
Yeah.
Only because like I just couldn't finish it. There was just too much stuff about characters I didn't give a fuck about, kind of thing. But then they came out with some more DLC, and one of them was All Might. And I'm like, I get back into this.
You know, the game industry, you're like the easy target for the game industry. I don't know why this is on my list, but it is. But I put Ghost Recon Breakpoint because I used to like the Ghost Recon franchise, and then the last one with the Ghost Recon Wildlands, it was like all low tech with the cartels, and I was like, oh, now we're going to get back into high tech stuff because there are a bunch of Terminators, because it used to be all about future combat. And then I started playing it. I was just like, what is this game? I don't understand why anything is anything, and I don't understand what I'm supposed to be doing. And also, you released the Division 2. Like, if you just wanted a repeating slogfest online, I don't understand why the Division 2 wasn't enough for you. Anyway, John, what else you got?
So, I mean, and that's kind of like my only real big disappointment. I feel like if I have a disappointment, and this is more of a grand generalized statement.
Yeah.
It's not that there was a specific game that disappointed me or anything like that. It's that there were a lot of games that weren't necessarily bad, but when you actually think about it, they're kind of just mediocre.
So you're not mad; you're just disappointed.
Well, it's not even like I said. It's not even disappointing. It's just that they're good, serviceable games.
Yeah,
but they're not the hype level games that you expected before they came out, or like for example, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3.
Right.
Like I didn't expect anything close to the original Marvel Ultimate Alliance, especially considering it's how long it's been since that came out. But I expected something fun and like a lot, fun, and it was okay.
I liked it a lot, to be honest.
No. It's an okay game. Again, that's my point, is that it's not a bad game.
Yeah.
But it's not like...
Yeah, we should talk about how that this is like personally how you feel. This isn't like, because if we were just doing like what were the qualitatively worst games of 2019, well, I don't know, like 2/3 of what came out on Steam, or 95% of what came out on Steam.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's mostly just that's a good distinction to make.
There's one that I can put on that kind of part of the list because everybody hyped it up beyond anything, which is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
It's number one with a bullet on my list.
Because goddamn, everyone's like, it's the best thing ever, and I was like, I had to force myself to finish that game. No pun intended, because that game was just a pain in my goddamn ass.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to that game, and then maybe I overhyped myself. Maybe I got too high up in my expectations. But when I played it, it was like, this isn't a very good Sekiro clone, and it isn't a very good Metroidvania. And like at the end of the day, when I thought about it, I think I would have rather have gone back and played The Force Unleashed than played Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were universally all disappointed in the Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah,
but like it wasn't a bad game.
No,
it just wasn't. Like it was just not great.
It also didn't. It also didn't help that The Force Unleashed 2 was the last narrative Star Wars game that came out.
Oh yeah,
and then it was like Connect Star Wars Battlefront. I guess nope. I always keep forgetting that Battlefront 2 did have a single player campaign.
Also, the Lego Star Wars games.
Okay, yep, Lego Star Wars games.
Got those,
which Battlefront 2's single player campaign might be the most disappointing game of the last
decade.
It
was pretty bad.
It was so
like another. And I'm sorry because I know you're going around and I'm sitting here kind of cutting you off here.
Yeah,
Greedfall. Like again, I actually played it. I actually played it a lot more than I expected to play it.
Did you not beat that game? You're like 90% of the way through.
You know why I didn't beat it? Because my console broke.
Oh. Okay.
It was literally the only reason I didn't beat it is because my console stopped working.
Oh, yeah.
And then by the time I got the replacement console, I didn't care anymore because it's kind of a mediocre game.
Yeah.
Like it's not bad. But it's just kind of like, why am I playing this?
I don't want to seem like I'm coming at you or anything, but my question for you is, how did you expect anything else from Spiders and Focus? Because all their games, I feel like, fall into that category.
It's better than any of their previous games.
Right. Well, I guess it's weird.
It's a low bar to jump. I understand, but I'm saying like it's because their previous games. I don't care. So with their previous games, it's very much I don't like playing them while I'm playing them. With Greedfall, it wasn't until I stopped playing it that I'm like, why the fuck am I still playing this game?
As you under its like hypnotic snake charmer spell, and then when you were forced to walk away, you're like, wait, what was I doing with my life? Hold on.
I hear a lot about Greedfall.
There are good video games out there that I could have been playing this whole time.
What else did they make? I don't even remember those guys.
Let's see. There was that
Mars Warlogs.
Mars Warlogs. There was a
Technomancer
ripoff. Yeah, Technomancer was one of them. There's a Dragon Age one called like Breath of Flame or Fire something that I played all the way to the end. For some unknown reason. I don't know. Did they do they're not the Styx guys.
No.
I don't believe.
No.
But
typically, their first, I want to say, like 3 or 4 games were like Xbox Live arcade style games.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
And when they were small, much smaller based games.
Let's see, Technomancer, Bound by Flame, Mars Warlogs. They did do Of Orcs and Men, which was the first one. Gray Matter, Fairy, Legions of Avalon, and Sherlock Holmes versus Jack the Ripper.
Oh, that one's the one I knew them for.
Yeah. They always have like relatively decent ideas, but they cannot execute, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And Greedfall was being typed as this like, oh, it's the new like fucking
Assassin's Creed.
Well, no, actually, it was like it's the new Dragon Age. Like this is more of a Dragon Age than Bound by Flame or whatever.
Right.
And it's like it's Dragon Age meets Skyrim, and people are gonna fucking love it. And it's whatever.
Yeah. Let me see what else I got on my list for disappointing games. Anthem. Which
Anthem.
I actually kind of liked. I think that the actual visceral thing, maybe I'm just more entertained about flying around like as a mech. I mean, Iron Man 2 was my game of the year for 2011, so I don't know if that says anything. No. But I did actually enjoy flying around and doing the things. I think that one of the reasons it's on my disappointments list is because it kind of had the potential to do a lot more, and then it got that thing where I feel like if EA had buckled down and done the No Man's Sky thing and really put the resources into like getting Anthem to where it needs to be, it could have been really good, and then they just didn't really. They kind of just shoved it aside. They were like, well, let's make another Dragon Age game, I guess.
Well, they basically were like, this one studio is going to work on it, and a bunch of them were like, we're going to go.
Yeah.
And then they just fucking left.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's also one of those games that I feel like I didn't think about it because I was disappointed in the game before it ever came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, it was weird to me because I made a video for it where I spent 30 minutes shitting on it, and then I kept playing it. And then I literally re-recorded that video to be like, actually, after I played it for a little while, it's like I could see what's going on. I don't know. Maybe my bar is really low because I also think that Destiny is boring. And this was like, well, it's like Destiny, but you could fly around in a mech suit and you can like shoot a bunch of bombs. And I'm like, well, that's better. I like flying around in a mech suit.
It had a lot of potential.
It had a lot of potential. I still hope that someday, like the last news story that I had for it was like the team that's supposedly curating it is like tearing the entire game down, trying to figure out what the fun parts are, and then like rebuilding it from the ground up.
Those poor guys.
Oh, you mean the things they should have done from the beginning?
Yes, absolutely. Blair Witch. I
didn't think that was disappointing.
I never played it.
Well, here's the thing. This may be fair, and it may not be fair. Blair Witch succeeded in a really, really an extreme way. It really succeeded in simulating what it's like to wander around in the woods and keep coming back to the same spot and being frustrated that you don't know where you're going because somebody threw the map in a river. Because the game was not very explicit at a certain point about what I needed to do to continue onward, to the point where I spent an hour walking in circles until I looked up online, just what the fuck am I supposed to do? And then I got to the end, and the last part of the game, which everybody says is supposed to be the best part, the house at the end of the game spawned inside of a rock, and I could not go through the front door to finish the game. And I literally reinstalled the game, I reloaded the game, I exited the game and rebooted my Xbox, and every time I came back to it, it got buggier, and the house would spawn inside of a rock, so I couldn't play the part where everybody's like, well, the first 6 hours are like okay-ish, but the last couple, like 90 minutes, oh my God, it's incredible. And it's like, well, I'm not going to start this game over. I'm not going to play this game over again. Also, I found out that the game has a good ending and a bad ending, and the thing that you're supposed to do to get the good ending is ridiculous, and the game doesn't ever tell you that that's what you're supposed to be doing, and so 9 times out of 10, you're going to be getting the bad ending. And
Yeah.
for all
that's
those
true.
reasons, I am disappointed in the Blair Witch.
I don't know. It honestly, if we were going to be talking about honorable mentions in the next, that was actually going to be in my honorable mentions.
Sure.
Like it's not good enough to be in.
This is probably not fair. Like this is my personal opinion. This is not fair
I'm not
to the game,
arguing
but, like,
with you. I'm just saying.
But I was not going to replay that game.
Okay, I get it.
over again, and
I would have loved to have been here every time. He's like, it's a goddamn rock. Every fucking time.
The other problem was that it took me 45 minutes to realize that there was a glitch happening and that I just didn't know where to go because I'd spent 2 hours going in circles. So I started going online to try to figure out, well, how do you get past the big rock that's in front of the front door of the house to get into the house? And it's like, oh, that's not supposed to be there. So I spent 40 minutes trying to figure it out on my own, 20 minutes looking it up on the internet, and then like another 2 hours rebooting the game, reloading the game, doing the level before to try to get to it.
That's so fucking crazy.
Yeah. One of those things where it might not be fair, but it just pissed me off to the point where I was like, you know what, Game Goog, fuck yourself.
It's
You
kind of
fuck
amazing.
yourself.
Okay, fair. I'll say it's fair.
Left Alive.
Oh, I forgot that game.
I don't know that anybody... I don't know that anybody remembered Left Alive, the Metal Gear Solid entry into the Front Mission series.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the Front Mission series, and I love Metal Gear Solid. And so the trailers for Left Alive did not look good, but I was like, maybe they'll do it. Maybe they'll pull it off. And then I played it, and most of that game is like throwing tin cans behind a guy so you can sneak past him. I even played about half of the game to be like, maybe it gets better. Maybe there's a point. Maybe you get a mech at some point, and you do, and you get to do it for about 5 minutes, and then it gets blowed up. And I'm like, this game is bad. Why did they do this? It would be like if The Quiet Man was actually the Bouncer 3 or whatever.
Oh, God.
Like, that's how I feel about Left Alive, is that this was I love Front Mission. I just want more Front Mission games. I don't know why Square won't make them and why they do crap like this. John, what else you got? You got anything else?
Disappointment-wise? No.
Yeah. Michael, you got anything else?
Not so much disappointment, it's just that I sucked at it, which was the Crash Tag Team Racing.
Oh, yeah?
Because I was really excited for that, and then I was not very good at it, as far as I can tell, because we just kept getting our asses beat trying to do the normal mode, and I tried doing it at home, and I just couldn't fucking do it.
Yeah.
I just went right down the easy mode and annihilated the entirety of the CPUs.
It's also disappointing that they added in the horrible microtransactions like
so many of them,
like 2 months after the game came out.
Like it's like a mobile game for a lot of it.
Yeah,
there's a lot of characters you could only get through doing the Grand Prix. I hear it's actually not too bad if you really play the game a lot, I guess, kind of, but I wasn't very good at it. So I
don't know. It's just
stopped.
If you launch your game with the microtransactions, like, I can at least respect that you're upfront about what you're doing, but the idea of launching a game that's tuned in a very specific way, and then, like, after everybody's already spent their money on it, then you add that shit in, it's kind of like, ugh, gross.
Yeah, it was a bad time.
Let's see. Rage 2.
Oh, God. I only played that for an hour.
Yep.
And then I stopped.
Rage 2 represents kind of, I feel like no matter what else I thought about Bethesda and ZeniMax and id and all that stuff, Doom and the Wolfenstein games, and even Wolfenstein Youngblood, I really liked those. And so I was like, all right, let's see what they're going to do with Rage 2. And the trailers for it made it look really incredible.
Yeah.
And then I played it, and I was like, oh, this is okay. This is fine. This is like Rage 1, where you're like, this is kind of disappointing. When it wouldn't have been disappointing if the other games hadn't have been so good. If Doom 2016 and Wolfenstein The New Order and those games hadn't have been so good, then I would have got my hopes up for Rage 2, and it would have been like,
Well, there's a few trailers that made it look a lot more exciting than it was, too.
Yeah. I mean, it popped up on Xbox Game Pass,
Hey!
which we're going to you're going to hear a lot, because a lot of the games I played this year were played through that.
Yeah.
Take a shot every time we say it.
Yeah.
Don't do that. You'll
Don't
die.
do that. You will die.
You'll die.
But anyways, I downloaded it through that and literally played it for 2 hours and went, yeah, no, and then stopped.
Okay.
And then that's when I started playing Valkyria Chronicles 4.
The voice actor always caught me off guard because I know him as Phoenix Wright in the 3DS games, and I was just like, this just does not match this tone in any shape or form.
Yeah, and then of course my number one was Jedi Fallen Order, because to go back to it briefly, I wanted to say this before. The weird thing about Jedi Fallen Order is, it's in a lot of ways it's the perfect Star Wars game, because I feel about Jedi Fallen Order the way a lot of people feel, and I don't want to get into this conversation about The Last Jedi, where they're like, this is the best Star Wars game I've ever played. And I'm like, what game did you play? Did I play the same game as you? The one where you fall off the edge of the slide all the time? Where you fall through the level geometry?
Yeah.
Where you're like, the combat kind of sucks, and like... and it's Dark Souls for some reason.
I don't know how many people this happened to, but mine was glitchy as hell.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of T-posing villains. So many of them. At one point, I thought I was fighting a variant enemy, but it turns out his texture just didn't load the entire time I was fighting him.
Why do you let me go to Dathomir in the beginning if I'm just going to get gated by my progression? I was like, well, I'm obviously not supposed to be here because it's too hard, but I'm going to fucking buckle down and fight my way through Dathomir. And then there's just a place where you can't go forward until you play like 2/3 of the game and get the double jump. And it's like, why did you let me come here, video game? Why is this an open world, and why don't you just let me go just progression of levels? And then, the ending of that game made me furious, because
Also,
I was
that
like,
guy just shaking salt.
yep, you've gotten real powerful over the course of this game. That's cool. Fuck you. Fan service, fuck you. The end. So...
Yay.
All right, let's talk about some actual good games of the year. Let's shift gears and let's go from from bad to good. We're going to go down our list. We're going to go around in a circle. We each should have 10 games for our
Are we
game of the
going
year.
like 10 up?
We're going from 10.
Oh, I have like 50.
Oh, you have 50?
No, I'm joking. I don't.
All right, guys. This podcast is going to be 8 hours long while John
I
goes
only
through
have
all
10.
50. You played 50 games all the way to completion last year?
Probably.
And so we're going to go around in a circle. There's probably going to be a lot of repeating. If for this one, if we each have the same game on our list, I feel like we each get a little time to talk about why we liked it. So don't chime in if somebody else's game comes up before it's up on your list, and we'll go from there. And because I've been going in this way, John, why don't you kick us off with your number 10? Number 10.
Devil May Cry 5.
Devil May Cry 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a good year for Capcom, right?
Yeah, no, it was
Absolutely.
surprisingly a good year for Capcom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting to see how they reverse that for 2020.
Yeah.
Because it's Capcom.
Yeah.
But no, I really like Devil May Cry 5.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was actually I don't know why I was worried, because I like all the other Devil May Cry games.
Yeah.
And
Including DMC?
oh, I love DMC. I still think DMC is great.
Don't look at me. Don't even. Don't look at me.
I fucking love DMC. I think it gets a lot of we've talked about it for hours, that it gets a lot of unneeded hate.
Everybody in this room has talked with each other about DMC for hours, so
Just in different ways.
yes, slightly different ways.
I take it you didn't like DMC?
No, I didn't. But there's a lot of reasons behind that.
And that's fine.
That weren't always the game's fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's fine. But as far as Devil May Cry 5 goes, like I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the combat was great. I thought the level design was great. I thought the characters were great.
Mm-hmm.
Were some twists in the game painfully obvious just from the trailer?
So many of them.
Yes, they all were, but that's okay. However, this game has two things going for it that actually put this game on my list.
Okay.
And put it over some other games. One was the photo mode, because you know me, man, I'm a big fan of photo mode, and I took a shit ton of photos.
I don't
modes are
understand
great.
this, but yes, John is a huge fan of when a game has a
I
photo mode.
love photo modes. And two, the if you got like the collector's edition,
Oh,
you got the
yeah.
alternate
The
alternate
cutscenes?
cutscenes.
Yeah.
And it was like the pre-render like stuff they did
Previs.
previs
It's fucking
cutscenes.
amazing, guys.
It's
And
so
they're
awesome.
so fucking good.
Yeah.
And I wish I honestly hope that becomes a thing that more games do, because mind you, most games don't probably do that kind of previs.
I don't think so.
But still, it was fucking amazing.
It was absolutely incredible. He was playing the game, and then suddenly, instead of a bird, there's just like a guy standing on top of a chair doing all the bird lines. And like when there's a perspective shift, there's just somebody holding like an action figure with their hand in the frame, and then like a drawing of a monster coming towards them.
It's amazing.
It's so awesome.
It's so worth it.
It's probably one of the best like bonuses that you could possibly
Yeah.
get. For
Oh
a
no,
video
it was,
game.
and it was so worth it. Like
Yeah.
to get that.
I didn't actually that game. I thought about it for a long time, and I liked Devil May Cry 5, but it didn't make it anywhere on my list. So I could just say one of the things I thought was really interesting about it, and one of the things that fascinates me though, is that I don't know how Capcom. I don't know how many goats got sacrificed to whom. But whatever that Resident Evil 7 engine is that can do 60 frames per second, but it still looks really detailed and tight. Like I feel like up until that engine, anything that looked like that was still 30 frames per second on the console.
Yeah.
And now suddenly in this generation, and specifically with this RE7 engine, you've got this thing where everything looks like, like PT, but it runs like DMC3, right?
Yeah.
Like so. It was amazing to see like that level of graphical fidelity, along with all of the like particle and lighting effect stuff, running at that speed, which I feel like you really need for a Devil May Cry game to feel just like super, super snappy.
Yeah. And it was super stylish.
Yeah.
Like everything, like just felt stylish. Like even when you're just kind of walking around, like the different combat modes, the fighting styles, and different weapons that you can assign to your characters, everything makes you feel kind of like a badass.
Yeah, it's, especially considering there's like 3 different protagonists in that game.
Yeah.
So, and they each have their own kind of way of doing things.
And it was much higher on my list, but I adore that fucking game.
Yeah.
It's super stylish. It's cheesy in all the best ways.
Yeah.
The music is great. I literally was listening to the opening song on my way here.
There you go.
As well as just I love Dante and I love Nero a lot. I know you don't like Nero, Jeff, all that much, but I loved all the other stuff that they did with Nero, especially all the robot arms that he has and all the different things that each one can do, and it's just so much fucking fun from beginning to end.
Well, I tell you what, if it's higher up on your list, don't talk too much about it. Tell me about your number 10 instead, Michael.
So I didn't play nearly as many games as I wish I did this year, but number 10 is very good. It's Untitled Goose Game, actually.
The Untitled
Goose Game, because holy shit, I play that game for fucking days past the point where I should have, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just fucking around, because that game's just like, it gives you a series of objectives that are pretty easy to do once you know what you're doing. But then you're just like, I bet you I could steal those glasses and then just put them in that dude's yard and then take that guy's keys and take them all the way to that guy's house just to fuck with that guy. And you would just do this. Like, I literally stole everything in the farmer's yard, or not the farm, but the gardener's yard, and just left it at the store. And just everything. Everything I could take. Took his hat. I took his fucking shovel. I took goddamn everything.
Took his dignity.
Exactly. And
wedding ring.
And the game
and then the lady at the market sold it back to him.
Exactly. It's amazing. I fucking love everything about that game. The entire game is you're just being an asshole. Normally when a game's like be a douche, I usually shy away from that, but Untitled Goose Game, it's so charming that you just can't help but be like, I'm going to be a dick to everybody in the city.
I agree.
Also,
much
the
higher on
soundtrack
my
is
list,
amazing.
so I can't really talk much
Yeah,
about it.
me too. Well, number 10 on my list is, strangely enough, Void Bastards.
Okay.
Like, one of the things that I think about when I make this list is games where I couldn't stop playing them, where I sat there and I never stopped playing it. And Void Bastards, I played from beginning to end. I would never have expected it when I was playing it to be on this list, but when I thought back to the games that were like very, very, very compelling to me, where I just couldn't put them down for any reason, and that game is a game where when you beat it, you can actually do New Game Plus, and I was like, shit, yeah, New Game Plus, let's do this.
Oh, geez.
I love everything about the art style. I think that 2019 has some really good examples of games where we were really hammering home the lessons that, like, you don't need to have a $1 billion art style and the best engine in the world in order for people to like your video game.
Yeah.
And the fact that Void Bastards literally has characters that do that old school, they're just eight sprites that just turn, right? They're like old Doom enemies instead of like fully three-dimensional characters. And just the game has a sense of humor and a style, and then like the strategy involved, but it's accessible in the way that it lets you continue to upgrade and keep doing more and more runs. I loved it. I think that it's completely and totally worth playing.
And just to kind of piggyback on something you just mentioned, I actually think 2019, if anything, was a really good year for independent games.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I think this is one of the better years for independent games that we've had in a long while. And we've had some good years for independent games here and there, but I think this one specifically, independent games that didn't have the best graphics but had really good presentation with what they had.
Yeah.
Just totally fucking rocked
Or
it.
clever games.
Yeah, clever games that were fun to play repeatedly.
I remember like Baba Is You is one that I played a little bit of, but it was like just, really interesting little puzzle game. Some stuff that came from Devolver. All right. Number 9. John, what do you got for number 9?
So this game is going to be a little bit lower on my list than I probably should be, just because of the fact that it's a remake.
Okay.
Which is Resident Evil 2.
Resident Evil 2 remake.
Yeah.
Okay. So you just get all the Capcom out of the way at the beginning, huh?
What's funny is I don't think I intended that when I made the list, but it just dawned on me that like the
only
two
two Capcom games that came out this year.
Yeah, are number 10 and number 9, and that's part of when I'm thinking about it. It's a really solid game. Like if you forget the fact that it's a remake, it is a solid game.
Mm-hmm.
Like the gameplay is great, the puzzles are great, the fucking Mr. X is just hearing him stomping around is like nerve wrecking, and. Like, there was a point where I actually stopped playing the game for like 3 months because it was giving me panic attacks because of Mr. X.
Well, you have like a surround sound set up in a projector TV.
Yes.
You've decided to get panic attacks.
But like also, I don't have a lot of games that's happened to me on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like this one specifically is kind of I used to play fucking same setup. We used to play the first Dead Space, and I never had panic attacks, even though it was like eerily creepy and had issues. But this game, like legitimately, I would start hearing him walking around, and I'd start having panic attacks.
It's relentless.
Yeah, but it's just so good. And then when you think about it, the fact that it is a remake, and you look at the previous game, and you see how much is the same and how much is different and how it's different. Yeah, it's really good. Like it's a really, like, more remakes should be on that level. Like it's on a level that's like most companies don't go that far.
I think it's actually really interesting. It's somewhere else on my list, so I'll be coming back to it. But what I find so interesting about it is that RE7 was such a step back into the light for Capcom after years of just HD remaking everything. Yeah. And it was like, what are they going to do next? And it's like, well, they're going to remake and re-release Resident Evil 2. And it was like, oh no! Come on, Capcom, you were on the right track. You had 7, make Resident Evil 8, and then don't make 2. Everybody's already played 2, and then 2 came out, and it was like, oh shit, I forgot. Resident Evil 2 is one of the best Resident Evil games of all time. That's amazing.
and like, again, it was remade with a level of polish and care. Like, it wasn't just a one-for-one remake. Yeah. It was remade, and they went, okay, well, what worked for Resident Evil 2 that we need to keep, and what doesn't work for gameplay now. Yep. And then they legitimately made choices. Like, I remember people being so pissed when they found out that it was an over-the-shoulder third-person game instead of the fixed cameras with the tank controls. Like, there were so many people that were so pissed about it because it's a different type of scares. Yeah. Because, part of the reason that was scary is because your character would turn a hallway and, oh shit, there's a monster on the other side of that wall that you couldn't see from the angle you're at. Yeah. And then that's nerve-wracking. In this, it's very different, but they do it in such a way that it works. Okay. And like I said, the more I think about it right now, it probably should be higher on my list, but the only reason it got knocked down a peg is because it is a remake. I did play that game in the past, but it definitely deserves to be on the list and where at least at number 9 because of how fucking well it was done. Okay.
Michael, number 9. What you got?
It's actually the same thing.
Oh, there you go.
It's actually also Resident Evil 2 remake because for pretty much all the things he said, that game is just phenomenal what they did with it. Because, when you hear, hey, we're remaking Resident Evil 2, you're like, well, that's a crazy people talk kind of thing. Yeah. And then you see it and you're like, oh, you guys fucking went all the goddamn way on this thing. Like, you redesigned characters, you redesigned areas, you changed, like, entire, like, moments in it kind of thing. Like, you knew what my expectations were, and then you just blew them out of the goddamn water every step of the way. It's only slightly lower on my list. 1, because it's partly because it's a remake, and 2, because the zombies are such goddamn bullet sponges. It's headshotting a zombie with a shotgun. Their head should explode every goddamn time. But the game's like, no, not this time, I guess. I'm like, motherfucker, I only have like 10 of these goddamn things. It's like that kind of thing. But overall, the game is just amazing. Like, it's nerve-wracking at times. I played it the same way I kind of did play Dead Space, where I wait till it gets a little darker. I make sure all the lights are as off as I can, kind of thing. And then you're just walking around that police station, and you just start hearing that banging on that window, and you're like, what the fuck? Yep. And you're just, goddamn, it's just so nerve-wracking, and you're just freaking out at how many bullets you have, and you're just like, okay, if I shoot that guy here, maybe I should just start running. Yeah. And it's just amazing, like, the whole way through. And there's some great DLC stuff. There's some great outfits. You can get his old school PS1 outfit, as well as his actual, like, full-on your polygon PS1 outfit kind of thing.
And then there was like the hunk level, yes, and the tofu level, and then the other survivors thing that they made.
There's so much stuff they kept adding to it. And, and it just makes me that much more excited for the fact that Resident Evil 3 is supposed to come out later this year. Yes. Because I actually never played the original Resident Evil 3.
Me neither.
I think that's the case for a lot of people.
And then I tried to, I think Tony and I tried playing it. It was just like, oh no, can you guys just remake this? I don't want to have to deal with this.
I'm pretty excited, so yeah.
All right.
That's my 9.
For me, it is Indivisible, which was... I've been waiting for like 3 years, ever since you and I played the PS4 demo.
Oh yeah.
And then it finally came out, and man, it was just a joy. It was like it was so cool to see a game take like JRPG standards and the art style of Skullgirls and like this kind of cool story that was interesting and different, and put it all together with a weird Metroidvania platforming thing. The only reason it's lower on this list is because I played it wrong, and I ended up right before the end of the game having to backtrack through the entire world 8 times to do all the sub quests. But before that, it was pretty incredible. And I really liked all the characters. Like, all the characters were different, and they all played differently in a way that just really complemented each other. And then I just can't get over those Skullgirls guys. They're good. They're good at video games.
They're so good at it, guys.
So yeah, I absolutely positively loved Indivisible. To the point where I did everything. It's also worth noting that unlike some other JRPGs that did not make this list because they were fucking long, Indivisible can be beaten in about 20 hours. So it's kind of an RPG that you don't have to spend your entire life playing. And at this point, I consider that to be a good thing. I think 20 hours is enough game for like $60. I think $60 and 20 hours is a perfectly fine trade-off. And I didn't have any problem beating Indivisible within a few days because I just kept coming back and playing it. So
It's real good.
Number 8.
So this is a game I'm not sure if I'm going to get some hate for where it is on my list.
Okay.
Death Stranding.
Okay.
Is at number 8.
I'll fucking kill you!
And I'm not meaning from you. I'm just like from people. Because here's the thing. I said this before the game came out, and I feel like what I said stands even after playing it, regardless of how you feel about the game.
Sure.
It is an important game.
Yeah.
It is a game that everyone should play. Is it going to be the best game in the world? No. Is it going to be an interesting game? Yes. And that game was really interesting. More interesting than a lot of the memes and jokes about it led on to believe.
Sure.
First of all, it's Kojima.
Yep.
You know, it's he knows how to make a game.
Yep.
Like, that's what I feel like people forget, is that the man knows how to make video games and make them compelling. Yes, his stories get a little weird and sometimes a little long-winded. And yes, he very clearly wishes he was making movies instead of games. Or not making movies instead of games, but also making movies, and tries to make his games feel like movies.
Yeah.
There's a lot of negatives about it, but I feel like once I got what the game was supposed to be and everything clicked, it became one of those games that I would play in my I kind of stopped mainlining it and started playing it in my spare time. And when I just needed those calm, kind of like I treated it like I treated No Man's Sky when it first came out. Which No Man's Sky, when it first came out, it was like, oh, this isn't so bad. Just play it, put on some music, and play it until until I don't feel like playing video games anymore.
Yeah,
and that's kind of how I started dealing with Death Stranding, and I found that I really super enjoyed it. This is a guy who actually made workable game mechanics for just walking around, and made that, like, gamified it.
I want to put it on the box. It's the Dark Souls of walking.
Yeah. And it's really well done, and there is a story there that is interesting.
I like the way you walked back the very good on there.
No, I actually do think it's good. I do think it's good, though.
There is a story.
There is a story, but it's like, I do think it's a good story. It's a very interesting story. You have to kind of infer a lot and maybe read a lot of like other stuff in the game to kind of get what's going on in a lot of cases, but
I think it's a loftier story.
It's an ambitious story.
So much of Metal Gear is about like soldiers and fighting and like what that means to the world and like violence, and this is a lot more like existential. So it gets a little bit more, which is weird because Metal Gear also has its existential shit that's going on,
but this is taking existential to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And it's, like I said, it's very clearly not going to be a game that's for everyone.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure there are going to be some people who are upset that it's even on my list. I'm sure there are going to be some people that are upset that it's so low on my list. But I stand by it's an important game.
Yeah.
It is definitely a game that should be played from 2019. I think it is an important game in Kojima's career. not just in the fact that it's his first game after Konami,
Right.
But just in the fact that this is him kind of getting over that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of it
His
is
breakup game.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot of him working through the shit of not being at Konami anymore.
Yeah.
And the entire time I'm playing, I'm like, man, this is so good. I can't wait for whatever his next game is.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Like, I am like double excited for his next game. This game made me double excited for a game that's not even announced yet. Whatever it ends up being, even though I think it was announced, he did say that he's going to make a movie and then he's going to make a game that's a horror game. I think he said in an interview.
I try to take everything Hideo Kojima says the grain of salt because you don't know. He could be making an amusement park and a new line of soda, and I would not be even remotely surprised if those were his next two projects.
But you know what? I'm on board. Like I feel like this because again, people like to make fun of it. It's you just walk places. You're not even doing. You're just doing this mundane fucking job. It's like that environment is fucking beautiful. That game is beautiful. The mechanics for the game are great. They're not the game. Even when it's boring, it's not. It's still like enjoyable in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and boring is the wrong word, obviously, but a lot of people would call what it's doing boring.
Yeah.
Sure.
But it's still like it works, like in the same way that No Man's Sky worked with traveling.
Right.
So it's deserves to be on any top 10 list regardless of where you put it.
Okay.
But every game that's above this one I got more enjoyment out of than
Also, John, just before we continue, John and Michael both, this is a best of 2019 list. Everybody's going to be mad about everything.
That's true.
Like, no one will ever be happy with this list. And with that preamble in mind, Michael, what do you got at your number 8?
This is
I'm
me
happy with my list.
This is definitely me cheating because this game technically came out ages ago.
What?
Which is the Ghostbusters remastered game.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
That's right.
Did both of you just say the Resident Evil 2 was low on your list because it was a remake, and now you're talking about a remake from like 2015?
To be fair, I didn't put it on my list because it wasn't a remake; it was a remaster, and those are two completely different things.
That's why I'm cheating. But that's because there's a theme to the next three games, or to these three, this one, and the next one kind of thing.
Okay.
But the reason it's a cheat is because I just fucking love this game.
Oh, it's a great game
with a goddamn passion.
Me too.
And it looks gorgeous in the HD remake that they've done. They've done a lot of work with up-resing everything they can. They've done a lot of work just making this thing just like everything just pops out even more than it did before.
Yeah.
Like all the colors.
I got it on my Switch. It's
much
great.
there. Yeah, there's a Switch version that you can take to go kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they were still working on eventually patching in maybe the multiplayer again, but we still have no idea at that point.
Yeah, but that multiplayer game was bad.
I like playing with my brothers, but it's one of those things where it's like I'm really happy that they did a re-release of it, and I want more people to continue playing that game for a long time. And it's just one of the reasons it's my number 8, really.
Okay. That works. All right. Well, I tell you what, my number 8, I've forgotten what's on this list. So
I love the fact that you're like, this is going to be a surprise even to me.
Number 8 is Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which neither of you jerks played.
I'm into.
An avid fan of Metroidvania games. I have been waiting for a long, long time for Bloodstained, and I was so scared that it was going to be a Mighty Number 9 Part 2,
Oh, God.
and it wasn't.
Thank
it
God.
was like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, except you know how Castlevania Symphony of the Night is broken and has too many mechanics in it, and like technically it's kind of way too easy. Well, this game is not that. It's challenging. The mechanics make sense. The story is great. It's Castlevania, but not Castlevania, but also Castlevania, and you can change your hairstyle and have pink pigtails if you want, because there is a phantom hairdresser that will cut your hair into a different thing. There are great boss fights. There are great things. There's that fucking bloody ninjas and Draculas, or no, not Draculas, sort of Draculas. There's like a secret ending that you're one thing. It's basically like if you've been waiting for a sequel to Symphony of the Night for years, this is it, except that it's just not called Symphony of the Night 2. It's called Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. And I love it so much that when it came on Game Pass, I actually played halfway through it a second time because I was just like, and one of the most disappointing things of this year is the fact that the Switch version launched broken, and I hope that it's fixed by now because everybody should be able to play this game. Metroidvanias are good video games, and we don't make enough of them anymore.
I wouldn't argue with that.
That's true. kind of. A lot of people try making them.
Yes.
Not all of them are good.
Also, that graphical update they did, I didn't necessarily think the game needed it, but it looks great with the graphics update.
Oh, they worked really hard on making everything look better.
They did, and I consider this to be one of the best examples of a developer that's gotten fucked by a company going to Kickstarter to basically make the game that they always wanted to make, and then actually doing it successfully. And there it is. So it's great. Play it. You too. I'm not talking to the audience anymore.
I mean to.
It's on my list. It's on my console. It's there waiting to be played.
But there's a Dragon Ball Z game coming out this weekend, so
And I just got a game that I imported from
Quantum
Japan.
Break. Greedfall, Quantum Break.
I need to finish Quantum Break.
I'm never playing Greedfall ever again.
Killing me. All right. I actually, looking at the time, I think that we're going to do number 7, and then we're going to take a break because we're almost at a whole hour. So
And Jeff's having a conniption fit over here.
I am. My conniptions are all fit. They all fit in a box. John, number 7.
Mortal Kombat 11.
Mortal Kombat 11.
I mean, it's first of all, it's Mortal Kombat. Like they've actually, I think it's funny because back in the day, if you would told me that Mortal Kombat would have been it would eventually become a better game than Street Fighter, I would have said you're fucking crazy.
Absolutely.
And if you look at the latest Street Fighter game and look at the latest Mortal Kombat game, now I know they were released years apart.
Sure.
The last Street Fighter game came out like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
This Mortal Kombat game is so fucking good.
Yeah.
I mean, the only problem it really has is, the microtransaction thing with the crypt.
I still maintain is not like
it's
that
not
big a
as
deal.
bad.
Yeah.
It's not as
It's actually
bad
not
as
that
people
bad.
made it out to be, but the crypt is not the best.
Yeah.
But even with that, the fighting is good. The graphics are good. The kills are great. The character roster is fucking amazing.
Yep.
And they're still releasing DLC characters for it. Though the Joker, I think, is about to come out. Don't really care too much about that.
I think he comes out in a couple days, actually.
Yeah, there was a trailer for him on the news that we will probably not be able to get to today. Which didn't look great. It was that problem with that Joker is I can't tell what Joker you're going for. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, I know it's the same voice actor from the Injustice games.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
He does Raiden's voice. Or
Okay.
Raiden's voice.
Yeah. But yeah, it's so good. It just feels good to play. You feel like a badass. You feel like you're just beating the shit out of people, and you feel like you just want to walk out and just I'm the strongest man alive. Oh wait, that was a video game. I'm not the strongest man alive. I can't really rip some dude's spine out with my bare hands.
You can still
But
punch a guy in
feel
the
like
dick,
you
though.
could.
Yeah. Okay. Michael, what do you have for number 7?
Medieval.
Medieval, the remake.
Yes, that's what the theme was, but essentially for these last 3 was that every single one of these is a remake of some kind, either a remaster or a remake. And Medieval, I think, is the opposite of what Resident Evil 2 was.
Okay.
Resident Evil 2's was very much a brand new thing, everything built from the ground up. Medieval is the exact opposite of that. It's a full on almost everything is exactly the same, but in the best ways possible, because that game never was really broken in any way. It's just it plays like an old PS1 game sometimes.
Yeah.
But you now have camera control. All the graphics look great. They did a lot of good job redesigning all of Sir Fortescue's facial expressions, because since he's a character, he doesn't really talk all that much because he's missing his bottom jaw. They did such a fantastic job with it. It's fairly short, but it's still fairly affordable. But I loved it pretty much the whole way through.
Okay. Cool. I'm glad we got a chance to take a look at it. Let's see. My number 7 is Mortal Kombat 11. So I'll talk a little bit more. If you had told me that I would care even this much, which my fingers aren't that far apart, about the story of Mortal Kombat, I would have said the what of what in what? With the what? I mean, Mortal Kombat has always had a pretty good story, but starting with Mortal Kombat 9, I feel like they brought it back and they were just like, yeah, this is the story of Mortal Kombat. It's about wizards and interdimensional travel and a Bruce Lee that turns into a dragon. So fuck you. That's what it's about.
Yeah. Also, the fact that no one thought 9, 10, and 11 were a trilogy, but they totally are.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And then 11 comes around and it's like, and you know what? on paper, 11 should suck. It's about the secret villain who was actually the person who's been twisting the fates this entire time. Here comes the time-traveling wizard that's actually been the real monster, and this should be the most eye-rollingly bad retcon of the entire franchise. And I'm like, nope. She has an attack where it puts me back in time and a T-Rex attacks me. So, like, no, that's fine. And then where the game ends, and I'm like, oh, you somehow put all of the bad writing of all of the Mortal Kombat franchise and explained it away in a way that it's satisfying? How is this possible?
Yeah, and it also ends it in a way this could be the last Mortal Kombat game, and everyone would be okay with it.
Yep.
And they could start a new Mortal Kombat game and have entirely new characters and bring over none of the previous characters.
Yep.
And everyone would still be okay with it.
Yep, 100%. And then not only that, but
Johnny Cage or bust is all I'm saying.
I say that
He's a good ventriloquist.
Exactly.
I think that Injustice 2, I liked it a little bit better I like the fighting system in Injustice 2 a little bit better. But the other thing about NetherRealm games is that over the years, I have fallen out of favor with fighting games because a lot of them are just too technical for me, and I just don't care anymore. But Mortal Kombat and in the NetherRealm games are satisfying to play. And not only that, but they're, the gore, the hits, the fatality where Johnny Cage ventriloquizes half of a person, or stabs a person with his Oscar. Like, there are so many funny moments. There are so many touching moments. I didn't really care for the combat kids in 10, but I feel like they kind of have made up for it in 11. Everything on paper 11 should be not good. Everything that every time it's like we're going to meet younger versions of old characters. And I'm like, no, don't do that. That's just fan. Oh, wait, no, I like it. And then once they patched it, I was afraid when it came out, the towers were too hard, right? The first week or two that it was out, the towers were too hard. But after that, the reason that I never had so much of a problem with the crypt was because I just like fighting the AI in that game. I don't want to play online.
Yeah, I know, same here.
And just playing those towers when they have the tangible benefits of giving you the currency that you need to unlock the crypt just kind of added another thing, because unlike a lot of people who are big fans of Mortal Kombat, I've never finished any of the crypts in Mortal Kombat. And I didn't finish the one in 11 either.
No, neither did I.
But at least in Injustice 2, it's Injustice 2 had the stupid mother box system where you're just unlocking trash that didn't do anything. And at least in Mortal Kombat, it was well, this is also trash that doesn't do a lot of stuff, but it's more useful trash than just having this thing where my inventory fills up and then I've got to spend 20 minutes emptying out Green Lantern's inventory for some stupid reason. I think that the mechanics worked better. I think that the tutorial was better. The graphics were great. The story was great. The soundtrack was great. I loved Mortal Kombat 11 a lot. And you know what? We have now hit 1 hour, so we're going to go ahead and take a break. So if you want to hear, I really should start getting some advertisers, because we do a break, but we just put 20 seconds worth of music in there.
Yeah.
We could totally have an ad for Shave Club.
That's what I used to do when I was doing my old podcast. And every time we'd stop and break, I would get an ad.
Well, maybe I should just do an ad, and that will do that. Just be like, hey, do you like podcasts about video games? Check out the Rage Select podcast. You're already listening to it. Use offer code RAGE nowhere to get $0 off of this already free podcast. And listen to the entire back catalog when you subscribe to nothing, because it's all totally free, and you could do it right now. And we're back. Welcome back, everybody. As John pointed out, we probably should have waited to get number 5 through 1, but we're doing 6 through 1 of our games of the year, and then we all have.
We could just
mentions.
not do 6,
or we could just transition to the Kamen Rider podcast that you and Michael want to do.
It's all about fives.
So we're gonna do half of Game of the Year podcast, and then the second half is going to be about Kamen Rider, and then you'll have to come back next week to hear 6 through I wouldn't do that.
No.
It's just no good. Anyway, let's keep this hype train moving as we get to number 6. John, what do you got for your number 6? Number
That's 6.
It's 6. Okay.
Yeah, it's 6.
I'm confusing even myself at this point.
So the Dark Pictures, Man of Medan.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that one might be in my honorable mentions category.
Yeah, no, I fucking love that game.
Yeah, you played it like 2 or 3 times?
I played it 4 times in a row.
Oh, geez.
Like I played it once normally, and then I played once with like the director's cut or the alternate cut that they had as like a DLC thing.
Speaking of Sean Ashmore.
Yeah. Speaking of Sean Ashmore, and then like it was a really well made game, and I really liked it. I don't think I think I only got the good ending once, and then all the others were bad endings. But
Yeah. Do you think it's better than Until Dawn? Just out of curiosity.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, in that I feel like it's a more focused on gameplay style game.
Okay.
Because I feel like Until Dawn, there was a lot of, find these hidden butterflies and these totems and this other stuff, and we really want to push the story aspect. Like I felt like they felt like the butterfly effect thing was going to be a staple of all their games. They were really trying to push it.
Yeah.
And it was okay. Like it worked. Like everyone got it, but it was kind of like it felt hokey.
Yeah.
And this one just feels like a full-on straight story. Yes, your decisions matter, and your gameplay could be very different. And there was one gameplay that I played that was completely different than like the second game that I played. Like playing it twice in a row, I had like a dramatically different story. And I've talked to friends that have had stuff happen in their games that I've never, in all of like the three or four times I played it, that I never experienced. It's interesting.
I think that it's funny because Supermassive has also had a bunch of like kind of stinkers between Until Dawn and this. They had the police one and the VR one, which I never went back and played for realsies, and then the that VR one that was like a shooter.
Yeah, that came with the Until Dawn. Something.
No, not even that. There was another one that was like a military shooter.
The military shooter.
I forgot about that one.
That Michael and I played that was pretty
super
terrible.
Bad. I hated that one, yeah.
But the thing that I can say about it, when they do these and they do them right, they are as close to an interactive movie as humanly possible. Like I know that phrase has got slung around a lot over the years. But the thing is that I feel like unlike a lot of games, there's just enough gameplay and the fact that they like to twist and turn the story so much means that I'm always riveted to my seat as opposed to other like less interactive games. Like I really want to see where it goes. And for some reason, I'm never disappointed when like somebody dies or I feel like I made the wrong decision. Like it was strange when Matt and I played it for the Asylum, how we managed to just make the decision where one of the main characters just leaves the game. He just leaves. He gets away like in the beginning of the game, and then he's just gone. And so there's all this stuff like in the trailers, the evil lady face just wasn't in my game because the character that's connected to just wasn't there. Yeah. And that I think it really does encourage you to go back and play it multiple times. Did you ever play it with like the phone, like in the party mode or whatever?
No. I never played it that mode at all. But
I can only imagine playing it online, like watching a movie and letting somebody else make half the decisions.
It'd be great for streaming, though.
I do feel like the one place I would give it above a game like Until Dawn is that Until Dawn is definitely one of those games you kind of want to sit there, you play for a little bit, you stop, you come back to it a little bit, like the next day or whatever. You play it in spurts. This game, I felt, because it's shorter, it's a much shorter game. You can play it in one sitting.
You marathon it.
Yeah, you can marathon the entire game in one sitting.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it may be one of its strengths is it doesn't outlast its welcome. It's very quick, to the point, and it's got good effective scares, and there's some hokiness to it because of the story, but that's to be expected on any horror story. And I love the fact that it's a cheaper game. Like it was a $30 game. Like it wasn't a $60 title, and the fact that we're going to be getting more of these, I fucking love it, and I can't wait for the next one. Hope Falls or whatever. That comes out later this year.
It's also worth noting that for a game that kind of wants you to play it multiple times, the fact that it is short, like I know that Until Dawn, there was probably some different ways that game could have gone than the way that when Brian Salisbury and I played it for the show, but it was so long I didn't want to go back and play it all over again and then have to go through the beginning part, whereas Man of Medan kind of picks up pretty quick. Like it kind of gets into it pretty quick.
And like I said, I like the alternate cut because the alternate cut mode, you play as different characters. And so you get completely different scenes that wouldn't happen. Like in the opening scene, you play as that one military dude. In the alternate cut, you play as the other military dude. And so you see things differently, happen different. You're like, oh, that's why this happened, or that's what this was. Oh my God. Like it totally, you get a better picture of what's actually going on in each of those scenes than you would have otherwise. And it's just really, really interesting.
I love stuff like that, though.
Yeah. Well, speaking of stuff like that, I don't know what's next on your
no,
list.
it's definitely not like that.
Number 6.
My number 6 is actually, amazingly enough, Ultimate Alliance 3, because here's
Fight,
the
fight,
here's the thing, as my team of Avengers was so OP because I did so much side stuff that I just fucking plowed through that main story.
Okay.
Like my Hulk could just like walk up to a dude and flick him and they would just explode basically. Because like that's the thing, is that this is very much a game that's it's great by yourself, like 100%. Like you, especially if you just don't feel like really getting into something kind of thing. You can just pop onto like your a podcast or something and just go nuts on the side quest stuff, because a lot of the side quest stuff is just murder 100 people kind of thing, and you just go from there. And I leveled up so many teams because of that side quest stuff. Like I had a team of Avengers that made it to like level 90. I had a team of X-Men that made it to like level 80.
What?
I had a team of Spider people that made it to level 60 kind of thing. Because I was just fucking going nuts on this thing.
Okay.
Because I just had so much fun with it. Because it's been so long since I've had a game that was like use Cyclops or Wolverine or Spider-Man or Hulk or all these other characters that a lot of times they didn't get their own main game, except for Spider-Man, of course. But like it's just one of those things that I love, massive crossover type things, and Ultimate Alliance 3 it hit every one of those buttons that I love, geek wise, and all of the voice acting was still really good. The story wasn't too bad either, kind of thing, and like sure the graphically it's a little weird, but it's also a Switch exclusive kind of thing. Yeah, but overall I couldn't get enough of it. Okay, and there's a lot of DLC out that came out with it too. Yeah. So.
And I do want to stress, when I was talking about it earlier, I kind of mentioned it like half-heartedly. Like
don't walk it back, John.
No.
You said you hated it, and anybody who played it was a bad person. I heard that.
Wow, were we in the same room when I said that?
No,
because it's all fake news.
I'm sorry, but you were saying.
But no, like I do think it's a good game, and I do, like he said, I thought it was well voice acted. I think my biggest problem with it was the story. Like it didn't hook me. And I felt like because of that, it became kind of okay.
Man, there's one level that's just bad, though.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And I just like, because that's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for that story beat to make me go, oh, fuck. Oh, my God. Like, the shit is on now. Let's do this. And it just kind of never came. And I was just kind of like, all right, well, I guess I'm just playing this.
That is its one downside.
The controls are okay. The game's solidly made.
Yeah. I mean, I beat it, and then once I got to the end of it, I was like, I don't think I want to play this anymore. So
I played it so much.
There is something to be said for the type of game that you just want to play it, right? You just pushes your buttons, and you're there, and you're like, I got to kill 2 hours. I don't want to get into the story of fucking Persona 5. I just want to blast some dudes with Cyclops for a few hours, listen to a podcast, and go to bed. So
I did God, Cyclops is so OP by the time I was done with him.
Yeah. I also think that having it be like the first mainline entry of the series that I really played, I think I didn't understand how to play it very well as well. And the game, I don't think, was the best about explaining all the little ins and outs.
There's a lot of mechanics in it that were like versions of stuff that happened in the second one. Yeah. As well as some stuff from the first one that just didn't work as well with a team and a team of actual people. Yeah. That's the reason I stress enough. Like, that's the reason it's not like it's a little lower, is because with a team of people, it's harder to coordinate some of the stuff that makes your characters as OP as they were, like the way my guys were eventually, because there's so many team attacks that. With the whole reason I was able to play that single player as well as I did. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. My number 6 is Resident Evil 2. It's a little higher on the list for me. because kind of what I was saying before about how I feel like I was kind of giving Resident Evil 2 a little bit of the side eye because I was really hoping more for Resident Evil 8. But then when I ended up playing it, I think that the mark of quality for me is a game where when I finish the game, all I want to do is play that game a second time. And for Resident Evil 2, that Resident Evil 2's got your back, baby. Like, you finish the game with Leon, and it's like, Claire story, and you're like,
and then you play it a fourth time or a third time with Leon again. You get the Leon B story, and then you get the Claire B story.
Yeah, I wasn't willing to do that. Like, I think I played Claire's story on easy because I was like, I do want to play this game again, but I don't really want to have to count the number of bullets in my gun.
That's fair.
So I'm just going to go for it. I think that it's been that one of the reasons that I think I will continue to heap praise on RE7, RE2, and even RE3, hopefully if it's as good as the rest of these, is that the Resident Evil franchise for me is something that I've loved for a long time, that at a certain point, it's kind of like Mortal Kombat. At a certain point, it kind of just started breaking my heart a little bit, and then it kind of went over here, and I was like, I can't follow you there, Resident Evil franchise. And then, like, suddenly in the last couple years, it's like, here's this brand new game that's completely different than anything that you've ever played in the Resident Evil franchise. Like, great. Here's Resident Evil 2. I'm like, I don't know. It's like, but we made it way better. And I'm like, okay. And here's Resident Evil 3. I was like, oh, that was what I wanted after Resident Evil 2. Now I just hope it goes RE8, Code Veronica, and then I don't even know where you go from there.
Special Forces, I don't know.
Because I never played 3 or Code Veronica.
Umbrella Corps.
Oh, God.
Operation Raccoon City 2.
God, that game.
But, and then, in addition to that, as you were talking about Mr. X, it's funny because I forgot about Mr. X in a lot of ways. Was he even in the OG RE2?
He is, actually.
Okay.
Just not as much.
Completely forgot about him. But then more than anything else, I can say that, like, goddamn the memes. Goddamn the replacement models for Mr. X.
The Goose one's my favorite.
The Goose from Untitled Goose Game. Every time he comes in the room, it plays X Gonna Give It To You. It's like somebody was reading my dream journal.
Replacing it with Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh, yeah,
Here comes Thomas the Tank
The other one was the dude from San Andreas.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I forgot his name, but yeah.
It was legitimately amazing, and what's really interesting about it, and one of the reasons is I feel like a lot of times when they remake a video game, you can either get a thing where you play it and you like, a lot of times when you re-release a game, you play that game and you're just like, oh, I remember why I like this game so much. Playing RE2 was like an entirely different experience. It wasn't even nostalgia. It was like, I feel like this is a completely different game.
Yeah.
And it's probably because it's been so long since RE2 came out that instead of, at the beginning of this console generation, we got all these HD re-releases of games that were PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 games. But this is like so far in the past. And then it's so different now that they took the core of what it was, made it good, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So that's why Resident Evil 2 is my number 6.
That's amazing.
John, talk to me about a number 5. Number 5.
Outer Wilds.
Outer Wilds.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, this game was great. Like, it kind of came out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, I only played it because of Xbox Game Pass. Mm-hmm. And it was everything that I kind of wished No Man's Sky was. Mm-hmm. Like, it's everything I wanted No Man's Sky to be before it came out.
100%.
And again, that's not a dig at No Man's Sky. That's just, I wanted that game to be something that it wasn't. Yeah. And then once I realized what it was, I could enjoy it for what it was. But this game was what I wanted that game to be.
Right.
And it's so weird at how well it just fuels your love of space and exploration, mm-hmm. and does it in a way that is endearing, mm-hmm. and you want to know more. And there's like there's when you get to the end of the day, the first day, and the big what the fuck moment happens.
Yeah,
it comes out of it different people have had different experiences with it. Some people were like, holy shit, what's happening? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Oh, what was that? And then some people are like, well, then this weird thing happened, and then I just appeared over here, and that was weird. And then it took a while for me to realize what was actually happening. Yeah, because and it like everyone's experience talking about this game, I've never run across two people having the exact same experience, mm-hmm. and it's because it doesn't really explain anything, but at the same time, it tells you everything you need to know to play the game, mm-hmm. and it gives you just enough breadcrumbs to kind of fuel your curiosity to go, oh, I want to know more about that. Oh, I want to know more about, like, where do I go to find out more about this? And it's just so well done.
I think that one of the most amazing things about Outer Wilds is that there is no upgrade system.
No.
That your upgrades is knowledge.
Yes.
Is that and it's cleverly designed to the point where when you figure out how to get that door open, then instead of having an upgrade where now you can open a door faster, no, you just know how to get that door open lickety split. So the next time you go into that place, you just open the door and boom, you're good to go. So it literally is like you, the player, are upgrading. You are being upgraded by the knowledge that you have. And not only that, but that game is incredible in the way that it keeps track of what you're doing and what you need to do, because if you had to keep all that stuff in your head, you'd be so lost. But the idea that when you read a thing, maybe even you don't completely understand what you just read, but your computer, the one thing that does stay is that, like, you found that breadcrumb, and so here's the next thing you need to figure out. And it doesn't tell you what that is. It doesn't tell you. It just tells you kind of where you need to go and what you need to do. Like, there's a point in that game where you have to find somebody, and there's these monsters that will kill you before you can find the person in a weird maze. And there was a whole 8 hours of that game where I was just going to places to find stories that people had about these monsters and where they came from. And these kids play a game with the monsters, and then you got to go find where the kids were. And then what you get is the knowledge of how to get past them, which led to one of the most terrifying moments in the entire game. And it's great. And like, they give you these tools of where you just, one of the things I really love is that there's all these different astronauts in the game where they're each playing an instrument.
Yes.
So you'll be trying to find a specific person, and you'll point and you'll search the sky with your microphone for, like, the sound of a banjo, and then go to that planet to try to find where the banjo dude is. And one time I was chasing a thing, and I accidentally went, like, almost completely out of the solar system. And I realized I was, like, way far away, and I was screwed. I was just going to have to wait for the game to reset. And I turned around and pointed my microphone at the solar system, which was now so far away that it was just one dot. It turns out that all of the instruments for the characters are playing a song.
Yeah.
And that you can only hear that song when you get so far away.
Or when the planets are aligned.
Or when they're aligned. Yeah, that you can kind of line them up and hear this song. And it was like, what a beautiful thing that, I've never seen this in a video game before.
Yeah, that's crazy as hell.
The only reason it's not on this list is because I didn't finish it. And, but I really do want to go back.
It's such a good game. Like, it came from out of nowhere. Again, it's an indie game. It was one of those games. It was the first thing that popped up on Fig.
Yeah.
And it just was. I think NoClip did a little documentary video about it, and it was. I would honestly recommend going to watch that because it was really good. All of NoClip's documentaries are good.
Yeah.
But it's. It made me giddy to play.
Yeah.
And there are very few games that can do that and sustain it for long periods of time. And it's like this game and one other game in my top 5 are the only ones that I could think of in recent memory that have been able to do that.
Okay. Michael, what do you got at your number 5?
Luigi's Mansion 3.
Okay.
Luigi's Mansion 3 is one of my favorite series, or Luigi's Mansion in general is one of my favorite series.
Oh, it's great.
Because it's, A, I love Luigi.
And B,
I was
he's
the
a
younger,
Ghostbuster?
Yeah, and B, he's a Ghostbuster. Because I was the younger brother, because I'm the youngest of 5, so I was the young brother kind of thing. And one of those things is that, like, being the youngest, you tend to be overshadowed by your brothers kind of thing. So I felt like Luigi a lot of the times growing up. So when he found his niche, which is being a full-on fucking Ghostbuster, I was all fucking for that shit. And so
it's not that he's so much a Ghostbuster; he's just a coward.
He's a coward of the vacuum, and I love that motherfucker. But yeah, the Luigi's Mansion 3 is just it's the third game, of course, in this trilogy of Luigi accidentally having the save the day kind of thing. Because the first one, he just sort of accidentally falls into this trap. The second one he also is forced into this whole situation. And the third one is also he gets trapped and forced into another goddamn situation. But every single one of them is like, the thing about this game that I love is that instead of just being a mansion like the first one or being a series of levels like the second one was, it's just this giant hotel with different themed levels sections that are just fucking like charming as hell. Like like there's a desert area, like a water area, like a basically a fucking night medieval kind of area. Like everything is just so much fun. Like the new stuff that you get in that game, like the plunger thing, as well as the ability to slam ghosts on top of each other, which I never got fucking tired of. I just kept beating ghosts up with other ghosts, and I just couldn't stop giggling the entire time. And all the bosses are fascinating as well, because unlike the first one, every boss is very specific to their area, and they're much more interesting than all the other ghosts are. There's one ghost that I never even bothered capturing because I felt bad about doing it.
Oh yeah, I know which one he's talking about.
And because all of these ghosts have these interesting personalities, and what I also loved about the fact is that it's not just like him saving Mario. He's saving all of it, like Mario, Peach, all the Toads. Like he's proving to everybody that he still is also worth being the hero at the end of the day, and it's just so much fun. Also, he has a ghost dog, and I love that shit.
Also, the Virtual Boy jokes.
Yes, so many Virtual Boy jokes.
Yeah, it's funny because I've always maintained over the years that I don't think Nintendo makes many bad video games. It's just a question of like whether you're interested in the subject matter of the video game. They're like, if you're into Yoshi, you're gonna love Yoshi's Crafted World. If you're into Luigi, you're gonna love Luigi's Mansion 3. And if you're into Star Fox, we can go fuck yourself.
The reason it's not higher is because of one, it's a little easy at times, except for like towards the end, it just gets really hard for some reason. And three, if you're low on health, there's this loud fucking beeping noise that will not go away until you get more health. And
it is bringing that shit back, huh?
It is fucking infuriating.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the reason I didn't make my list. But it's definitely it's a really well made
amazing
game. It's a lot of fun.
That's why I didn't make my list too. That's why it wasn't on my list.
You hate Luigi, Jeff. We know.
He hates fun.
He hates all player 2 characters.
That's true because I am the firstborn.
Yeah. He's the Mario of this room.
I am. My number 5 is Untitled Goose Game. I'm putting it higher up on my list because Untitled Goose Game is freaking amazing.
It's so good.
When I went on vacation for Christmas break, I took my Switch with me, and I didn't play it at all except for one time where I pulled it out and showed my mom Untitled Goose Game. And she was having a hysterical, she was in stitches, just watching me as this goose go do this stuff. I think that it's the most gentle game about being a jerk off that's ever existed.
Absolutely.
Like when you think about games where you're a jerk off, you can think about like Grand Theft Auto or like the Postal series or whatever. And it's like a goose took my sandwich. It's like the plot of a children's book, except that because I, the player, have the blackest of black hearts, I'm like, yes, suffer without your sandwich, garden man. I'm having a goose picnic. Like, in my mind, this goose is the devil. And on the screen, it's like classical music. And, it's shenanigans with this goose. And I'm just like, clip your neighbor's prize rose, woman. Kill his dreams. And then at the end of the game, I think there's a pretty clear story about the fact that this goose just keeps stealing these bells for some reason. But then I also like to attribute a kind of like Terminator Judgment Day Looper-esque time travel aspect where, it's like he's trying to collect all of the Infinity Stones, except the Infinity Stones are bells that people put in the tiny thing. The end of that game where you literally have to run through the entire game and you realize that this game was like super short is great. There are moments in Untitled Goose Game that I will never forget. Like when you trap the kid in the thing and then the lady comes out of the store and you put the goose on all the cameras and then I cannot express how just like the fact that there are 3 control buttons in that game of like put head down, grab a thing, and then I don't think it has a use but just flap wings.
Yeah.
And then, whenever I want to make a point, I just flap my wings at people because fuck you, I'm a goose. Also, going back to Resident Evil 2, the memes were incredible.
Oh, my God.
And the number of people who got in on Untitled Goose Game, regardless of whether they were, like, really big gamers or not, because it was a cheap game that you could beat in a couple hours and, like, check this out. Also, for such a simple game, it's absolutely beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautiful, sounds good. Oh yeah, I forgot there's also a button to honk because
Yes.
of course. But
Even
yeah.
my roommate loved that game. My roommate doesn't play many games. He plays literally just Mario Maker 2 and Sonic the Hedgehog games. That's his entire thing. But the second I bought Untitled Goose Game,
He's the one.
That's all he fucking played.
Yeah.
For like 3 weeks. And every now and then I'll come back home and he's just fucking playing it.
It's even got replayability.
Yeah.
It's got, the main story, the sub-objectives that unlock out. It's got New Game Plus.
Yeah.
And then it's got the speed run mode if you're really into Untitled Goose Game. Like, it's
That's so good,
amazing.
guys.
It's incredible.
It is.
All right. Number 4, John.
Judgment.
Judgment.
I actually fucking love Judgment.
Yeah.
It is. So you could say, oh, it's just Yakuza, but a little bit smaller, a little bit more focused, and as a detective game. And you'd be right. You'd be 100% right.
Uh-huh.
But fuck, do I love this game more than I love Yakuza?
Sure.
I love everything about this game. I love the seriousness. I love the stupidity. I love the ridiculousness. I love everything about it. Like, it just hits all the right buttons for me. Because I'm a huge fan of detective mysteries. I'm a huge fan of that, just kind of that whole genre.
Yeah.
So this is just like from story to implementation, and I love the gameplay of Yakuza because who doesn't? And like we've talked about it in the past. That Kamurocho, hopefully I'm saying that right, is such by now because of the Yakuza games that area is such a memorable, ingrained area.
Yeah.
That it feels lived in, and
Yeah, no, it's incredible. I was thinking about this the other day when I was playing it, where I've literally watched the area that is Millennium Hills go from like a park with a bunch of homeless people living in it to being constructed by Goro Majima to like a high-priced area in the suburbs of Kamurocho over the course of the Yakuza games. And that area has evolved, or like the amount of time that you spend in Judgment in the Millennium Tower that was just like kind of a placeholder in Yakuza 1, but over the course of the games has become more and more like a thing, and now it's very fleshed out and there's all kinds of stuff going on in it.
yeah. It's just I loved everything about it. I love the characters. I like whether you played it. And I think what's great about it is they really did a lot of good with the voice cast for the English. Like, I think the voice cast for the Japanese is fucking tops as it is for all the Yakuza games. But I really feel like this, because they don't really dub Yakuza games anymore. I think they did once.
I think the first one had, I remember specifically, like Mark Hamill played Goro Majima in the first one. I believe.
And I don't remember it being too good. Like, I remember playing it and being like, no, Japanese with subtitles, fuck you.
Yeah.
But this one, like, I never had that. Like, it was just like, oh, okay. No,
Did
I
you
got
play
it.
it all in English?
Yeah, I played the whole game in English, and I loved every aspect of it. And I like, literally, it's a smaller experience than Yakuza. Like, I went from playing Yakuza 6 and then playing this. It's very much a much smaller, more contained game, but I feel like it benefits from that.
Yeah.
Like, there's like, yes, you can go do other stuff, and there's definitely bullshit that you can do that has nothing to do with the main story or even the side stories. But
it also works because the main character is a private detective.
yes,
So instead of a Grand Theft Auto game or Yakuza where people are just on the street like, hey, buddy, can you help me find my cat? You get like, I would like to hire you, a private investigator, to find my cat. And it's like, oh, well, that makes more sense. I've never understood why, what's his name from Yakuza? Kiryu Kazama is finding people's cats. Why this grizzled, hardcore Yakuza veteran is just like, I'll help you out. I'll pretend to be your boyfriend so that your parents aren't mad at you. Whereas, like, I understand there's like a built-in story reason for the main character of Judgment to do all that stuff.
yeah, and it's just great. Like, I thought all the mechanics were really well done. I even thought their little poke fun at Phoenix Wright. There was like a section that kind of pokes fun at Phoenix Wright a little bit that I thought was a lot of fun.
Yep.
Jeff messaged me while he was doing that part because you know how much I love Phoenix Wright. He's like, it's happening.
I was like, oh my God, they're doing Phoenix Wright.
And all I can say is that while I don't expect them to, I really hope we get another installment of this franchise at some point. Of the yes, they're doing Yakuza 7.
Yeah.
But I really hope we get a Judgment 2 or whatever they call it. I know in Japan it's called Judge Eyes, but
yeah.
But I really just fucking loved everything about this game. Like when it was over, it was one of those things where I was like, man, that was really satisfying. Like even the stuff that makes absolutely like the twists in the storyline that there are some things that happen that make no sense when you actually think about them. They're just kind of like, well, that fucking makes no sense. That reveal makes no sense when you actually sit down and think about it, but it still works. It's still entertaining. And
well, if you say anything in a serious enough tone in a Yakuza game, it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it's just like there's like a character that has a mysterious identity, and then when they reveal the identity of the character, it's like, how the fuck does that work?
Yeah.
It doesn't. But sure, I'll go with it because I love this fucking game.
Yeah.
I think I saw on Twitter you were gushing about the credits sequence.
Oh yeah.
I think even
credits.
Amanda, I think was even like, yeah. Jeff was like, hey Amanda, did you see the end credits for this? She's like, oh yeah, the thing with the cat. Yeah, the thing with the cat. Here, let me give you a step-by-step playlist. She's like, Jeff, I saw the end. You don't need to.
No, but it was cool, and I have to tell you again.
And so I love everything about this game, because I feel like this game was made for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, it's probably not worth being at number 4 on my top 10 list. But again, these are subjective and everything. But like, there's games that are lower on my list that other people would most surely put above it. But it's just like, I feel like this game was targeted towards me and only me. So I was like, it's fucking number 4 on my list, man.
There you go. Michael.
That's amazing.
Number 4.
I gave this away on accident last time, but my number 4 is Devil May Cry 5.
Oh, there you go.
Because, god damn it, I love me some character action.
Yeah.
The Devil May Cry 5 is, to me, is the culmination of so many just weird little story beats throughout the Devil May Cry series that, like, sure, weren't surprises, but god damn it, I still love them. Mm-hmm. Like the stuff with the Sword of Sparta, the stuff with, Virgil's things, everything with Nero. As well as, like the new character they brought in, which is the granddaughter of the lady who built Ebony and Ivory, as well, who makes all of Nero's arms. Mm-hmm. I thought that entire she was so much fun.
Yeah,
and like even V, like with his weird 3 like his stand things, I guess is the best way of putting it. Like the bird that he has that I fell in love with,
animal buddies
kind of thing, and the same with like the wolf thing and the giant fuck off golem thing that would just murder everything in its path, kind of thing.
Yep.
God, like I just loved every moment of that, and everything with Nero's stuff. Like I love the way his arms worked. When I got that arm that you can ride, I was riding that shit for fucking days.
Only in Devil May Cry does skateboarding on a flying rocket version of your own arm. It's just like, well, yeah.
This just makes sense.
Why would
you not do that?
Exactly.
Like, I would be disappointed if that wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I actually did really like this weird multiplayer, non-multiplayer thing that they had going on, which is that certain levels you would see like a version of another character who's being controlled by somebody somewhere else. Because there's a level, for instance, where it's everyone is controlling one specific main character. Mm-hmm. And I went with Nero, and it was just this room was just full of people doing S-rank ass whoopings, and it was fucking phenomenal to watch.
Was that part of the main game?
It is.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was because every certain levels they'll ask you. Who do you want to use? Nero or V kind of thing. Mm. And you'll get there. Somebody else is using V or somebody else is using Nero.
Oh,
and so they will be getting like S ranks maybe if they're good enough with it, or the same with you kind of thing. And then there's a level where all 3 of them are there. So I ended up being the Nero, where the guy was Dante, and the other guy was V. Okay. And we were all just fucking like, there's just explosions going on everywhere, and it was just so much fun because it's just one of those things that could only really happen in this sort of weird online. Like the kind of thing that they were doing with it. Mm-hmm. I really, really
you can
liked
actually
it.
turn that off.
I think I probably did.
Yeah,
you have other people playing as other characters.
It's great. It's a lot of fun because it also does make for some really interesting moments because of it. And then, like, sure, the ending is not super fantastic, but overall, I just love that game with a passion.
Well, it definitely was. I mean, again, I cannot say enough good things about the fact that Capcom has managed to drag themselves out of the dark ages, and they were slipping into Konami territory.
They really were.
And they've really, over the last couple of years, managed to claw their way back out into kind of like the mainstream. I feel like for like 10 years, people were just yelling at Capcom, just like, make another Devil May Cry already! And they were like,
here's Street Fighter 2 again.
here's Street Fighter 2 on the Switch with Dark Ken.
Ultra Street Fighter 2.
I didn't say that. I said down. And then it's like, okay, I guess here's Devil May Cry. And it's like, yay! Fucking finally.
And it's so much fun. I love it.
Okay.
And the music's fantastic.
Yep. Let's see. My number, what number are we on? 4? 4. No, number 4 is Judgment. Also, one of the reasons that we didn't do this podcast last week was because I wanted to finish Fire Emblem 3 Houses and then also Judgment. Judgment was amazing. Judgment was incredible. If you've ever wanted to get into the Yakuza franchise, but you've been worried about the 7 games worth of backstory or having to start at the beginning and then knowing that there are 7 more games, Judgment is great because, like you said, it's everything that they did. Actually, I take it one step further because I think that Judgment took a lot of like the mechanics from 6 and then made them like simplified them and made them better.
Yes.
Like in 6, there was a whole thing about how if you ate different foods, you got different types of experience points and you had 4 different types of XP, and then you would use those to upgrade certain things. And so it was this thing. But here it's just like every time you eat a new food, you get a little chunk of experience points. And so it just encourages you to go eat at every fucking restaurant and max out every menu in all of Kamurocho, which means that you're like, going into these buildings and going behind this shed to find this vendor and like, oh, hey, I haven't eaten there before. And then the thing that I think that game does so well is that it's constantly rewarding you for doing things.
Yes.
Everything you do, you get some kind of reward, whether it's helping out a person or doing a side quest or doing the main quest. Everything you do gets you some kind of reward in that game. I did all of the batting cage minigame to get the part of the pass so that I could do the VR game for Infinity so that I could earn the money to put into the Kickstarter minigame so that I could kickstart the drink that gives you experience points at a higher rate so that I could max out everything, even though I already beat the game and there's nothing left to do. I'm this close, John. Michael, I am this close to learning how to play fucking shogi in order to 100% Judgment.
Oh my God.
I did half of the drone races, for God's sake.
Yeah, no, I did all the drone races.
Like,
Oh my God.
the fact is there's stuff in this game that I think is amazing and should be applied to every game. The whole Kickstarter thing, they've got a Kickstarter thing where you get these bonus items, but then it's like a Kickstarter where as you play the game, just over time they're getting funded, so they cost less and less and less the longer that you wait in order to fund them.
Yeah, and you can put just a little bit of money into it,
Yep.
and it's like a right now and then like come back to a little bit later, and you can put a little bit more into it. And
Yep. The only thing that keeps us from being higher on my list is that there is some grindiness. The upper levels of combat get a little irritating. I don't like the fact that there's that types of attacks that will start knocking, like literally knocking your health bar off, and you have to go to like a very specific place in order to pay a lot of money to get rid of those.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like the story is great. Like if you've ever wanted to play Phoenix Wright, but like really serious, and also you get to beat up a bunch of people, that's this game, and I don't know how you could not want to do that.
no, it's great.
It's amazing.
That does sound amazing.
I mean, they brought back the foot chases from Yakuza, and, for the most part, okay, they're maybe not the greatest thing in the world, but there are like 3 points on those foot races where the main character just picks up a skateboard from nowhere and starts skateboarding after the person that he's chasing, and I'm like, great, wonderful, fantastic, I love it.
Yeah, I love everything about the game. Like it's honestly, it's really really good.
Does he say cowabunga at any points?
He does not say
No,
cowabunga.
but he does like he does do like a ollie, and then like grabs the board and hits a guy with it, and then lands back on the board and continues skating.
That's amazing.
It's absolutely incredible. If you get a chance to play Judgment, play it. I'm so close to maxing that game out.
The only reason I think I didn't maximize the game out is because
Shogi.
No, it's not Shogi. It's that I literally was playing it and then I was like, okay, there's like 6 games about to come out next week. I think I have to stop playing this.
Yep. All right, let's go to number 3. John.
Untitled Goose Game.
Untitled Goose Game.
Okay.
Yes, because this one, like I said, this was the other one that literally playing it, I was giggling like a little child the entire time. Every time I would do some nefarious act, I would, Amanda would be like, "You are laughing like a maniacal person over tormenting this child that was just standing there," and I'm like, "Yes, and he shall suffer my wrath for existing." I love
being not goose.
Yeah, I love the whole thing. I love that when you get to the end of the game, you realize that there is a story.
Yeah,
and that there's a reason you're doing everything. And I love the fact that also the more that story, when you actually think about it, the more that infers about the history of this town that you're in.
Yep.
I love tormenting the gardener so much. I love locking him out of the garden because that's. I love that they have thought that they put so much thought into all the things that you can do in this game, and it may be short, but it doesn't. It's got so much replayability, and there's so much just fun, stupid stuff to do. I just, and like, it's hilarious because there were times when I wasn't even looking at the list and I just do something and it was like, "Oh, you did this thing that the list told you to do." And I'm like, it did? Like, I just did it because I was just fucking around. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, that they even knew, like, even if you didn't look at the list, they knew you were going to do it. And it's just, it's great. Like, I love everything about the game. Like you said, it's beautiful to look at. It's a gorgeous looking game. It's got a great little, very pleasant little soundtrack that changes depending on what you as the goose are doing. And then also at the Game Awards, we got the thing with the Muppets, where there was Untitled Beaker Game.
Incredible.
And I wish that was a real thing. I wish it was a real thing so badly, but I love it. Like,
It's funny. You could really make an argument that the goose from Untitled Goose Game might be like the breakout character from 2019. That over. I mean,
he 100% is, to be honest.
Yeah, like what
the
other
internet
character was
loved that guy?
I mean, I love Sam Porter Bridges as much as the next guy, but like, nah, man, goose.
If I could do Death Stranding with the goose instead, I probably would have done it. I'm just saying.
Who's modded that in yet? Has anyone modded that?
Happen. I think my favorite thing I did on an Untitled Goose Game on accident was I got the lady stuck in a loop inside of the garage because she would open the door but go back for something that she dropped, and then the door would close, and then so she dropped what it was, opened the door, and then went back for it. It's closed, and this went on, and I realized it because I was like, she hasn't got out of that garage yet. And I came back, and that's what I realized. Oh, she's been there for like 4 hours, just like opening the door and closing it. I just was like, I'm gonna go.
I mean, the fact that that there was a thing last year where somebody took every item from the game and put it in the same place in the Untitled Goose Game engine, and that I looked at that and was like, why didn't I think to do that? That's incredible. Yeah. I salute you, Untitled Goose Game player.
Rake in the lake.
Yep. It's absolutely wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Michael, where are we at?
Oh, what are we? We're doing number 3.
Number 3.
Easy. Mortal Kombat 11.
There you go.
Because I'm a giant fighting game nerd, and Mortal Kombat 11 is, oh my god. Okay, so the thing that always catches me off guard about the trilogy of Mortal Kombat 9 and 11 is that Earth's mightiest hero is Johnny fucking Cage.
Yeah, he is.
And like for years, I grew up using, Liu Kang and Sub-Zero, but something happened in Mortal Kombat 9 where Johnny Cage just became my absolute fucking favorite. And I just consistently have used them for 9, 10, and 11. And I can't get enough of that fucking character. Like the deadly uppercut fatality in Mortal Kombat 11 is so much fucking fun because it's just him doing multiple takes for this fucking thing, and then he's just like, fuck it, and just punches their goddamn head off and throws it at the screen.
Yeah.
And then flicks you off, and I love shit like that. That game is great. Technically, it's fucking great. Like, with all the new stuff they've added, every new DLC character I keep using, and I keep using more and more. I never thought I would use the Terminator as much as I do in Mortal Kombat, but by God, I fucking love that terrible Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. Like, and just every fatality that they bring into it, like the Joker DLC they came out with a thing with, because I don't think we're going to get to that trailer.
Yeah.
They showed off his fatality. It's a friendship that turns into a fatality.
Yep.
And I adore that shit. And the thing is, like, and I can't get enough of it. The story is just so amazing. Like, the bad guy of the story is basically a fanboy going, that shouldn't happen. I'm going to fix the timeline or whatever. And I love that shit.
It's a fanboy played by Tilda Swinton.
Exactly. It's such a weird meta idea to just be like it's just that fan that's just like, no, that's stupid. Why this isn't supposed to be how things are. I'm gonna make my own Mortal Kombat. It's gonna be with blackjack and hookers and shit. And you're just up to the main characters to stop this. And I can't get enough of this fucking series. And I just want more and more of Mortal Kombat. And I love NetherRealm so much for what they've done to Mortal Kombat. Because like you guys said, if you told me 10 years ago that I would like Mortal Kombat 11 over a new Marvel vs. Capcom game, over a new Street Fighter game, I would have told you guys are fucking crazy, but by God, here we are.
I cannot stress enough that if you were to write the story concept of Mortal Kombat 11 down on paper and show it to me, I would be like, that is stupid.
Yeah.
And you are stupid for writing that down. And yet, there it is.
It just fucking works.
And I love the fact that it also explains why it explains away any, like, you know, because between each
Deadly
game,
Alliance?
well, not even Deadly Alliance. It explains away every, like, you know, because in each game, and this goes back all the way from 1 to 2 to 3 to and so on.
Yeah.
In each game, the style of the game changes a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, characters may not look the same. Sometimes they don't necessarily act the same. Sometimes characters are good guys in one game and they're bad guys in another game. Like, and
they're super old for some reason compared to later on.
Yeah, and sometimes, like, they'll be old and then the next game they'll be, like, super young and it doesn't really make much sense.
I'm looking at you,
and then
Sub-Zero.
this game does away with, like, explains all of that.
Yep.
It just goes, look, if you have a problem with any of that, this is why. And it doesn't specifically, like, point it out, like, say, oh, this is why this is all happening. But it does it in a way that just goes, look, if you could figure out that this is why that's different, cool.
Yep.
Like, and it's just like, God damn.
Oh, other thing I forgot to point out, they got so many references to the Mortal Kombat movies in this new one. To
Yeah.
the point where they got the actual actor who plays Shang Tsung to be Shang Tsung as his character.
Yep.
And one of his outfits is basically his movie outfit with the leather jacket and everything. And I fucking love them for that.
Yep.
God bless those guys. God
Yep.
bless those motherfuckers.
God bless them, everyone.
All right. Let's see. What number three is the Outer Worlds for me. Not the Outer Wilds, but the Outer Worlds.
Yeah, that was the thing in 2019 that was annoying.
I have been. I think that the Outer Worlds is actually not just a very, very good game, but also a very important game. If for no other reason than to look at Bethesda and the way that Bethesda has been screwing around with the Fallout franchise, and then just going like, what if we just made New Vegas again, but like in space, and like we made the mechanics better, and we like made the story better, and we made like the combat satisfying, and like a bunch of cool people that you can hang around and do stuff with. And I feel like Bethesda, like Todd Howard is just like, that'll never work. And then the Outer Worlds comes out, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved the way that the things looked. I loved the anti-corporate message. I know that a lot of people don't like that, but I think a bunch of fucking space corporations that own your very soul. I liked the different builds and the way that they were all viable. But one of the things that I loved more than anything else was the way that it took all of the fiddly bullshit that has been in Fallout and the Elder Scrolls series since Skyrim and Fallout 3 came out and condensed it to the point where it's not a fucking problem anymore. That, you know, like, I love the fact that instead of having, you know, in Fallout 3, when you're trying to get your health back and you've got 800 different pieces of food and then also stim packs, well, here you've just got this thing that you injected to your neck, and it just injects whatever you tell it to, and it doesn't matter. Like, I love the way that this game streamlines it. I think it's incredibly creative. the way that everything looks in this kind of funky, old but new, but not a Western, not Firefly, but like it's got its own thing. I love the fact that my charisma was so high that I was almost able to talk my way through the end of the game, and then I failed the last charisma check, and then I remembered that booze makes your charisma higher, so I got my character wasted, and then just talked my way through the end of the game without fighting a single person because I was wasted. I was just like, just don't, maybe stop being... No. And they were like, you make a compelling argument. I will open the door and the game will be over and you can be done with it.
That's so fucking crazy.
Yeah, it runs great. And I think that for the first time in a long time, one of these types of games got the combat right, got the way that the weapons work right, got the upgrade system right, got the character creation system right. I think from top to bottom, this game is right. And the only reason I didn't start playing it again with a completely different build was because I had to move on and play other games because I can't afford to play 40-hour RPGs over and over and over again. But I absolutely, positively, 100% loved it, and it is my number 3. So, we only got 2 left.
Yep.
Yeah.
John, number 2.
The Outer Wilds.
Yeah. Outer Worlds?
Outer Worlds, sorry. Outer Worlds, yes.
Yeah, see, that's
See, it happens.
God damn,
It happens.
2019.
It happens. No,
gonna
Outer
happen one
Wilds
time.
was so good. It was number 5 and number 2. No. Outer Worlds.
That's how where it went up.
Yep.
Outer Worlds, definitely. Like everything you just said, it is everything I wish the Bethesda Fallout games were.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a weird, tenuous relationship with the Bethesda Fallout games because I don't like the Elder Scrolls games, not because they're not good games. Well, not because there's not compelling stories and not because that on paper they're not good games. I just think they're ugly and buggy as fucking shit.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that they are unplayable, buggy pieces of shit. And I have yet to be proven wrong. But when it comes to the Fallout games, I love Fallout.
Mm-hmm.
I loved Fallout 1, the first Fallout, Fallout 2. I loved all the old Fallout. Bethesda Fallout, Fallout 3, I tricked myself into loving the game.
Mm-hmm.
In that, while I was playing, I'm like, yeah, Fallout. Do all this stuff, Fallout. Yeah. And then I stopped playing, and I'm like, that's an ugly piece of shit. Why did I keep playing that?
Liam Neeson's your dad. He needs you to make the water good, John.
Is that what the plot of that game is?
Yes.
Yes. And then playing Fallout 4. Playing it, going, yeah, Fallout. And then, I stop for a couple of weeks, go back to him, like, this is a buggy piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck, man?
Todd Howard magic.
Yeah, no, totally. It totally is. He fooled me with the word Fallout. And then, but this, I played it. I loved it. And I stopped playing it. And I went back to it. And I still fucking loved it. It's like, oh my God, why can't Fallout games be this? Yeah, so it's just it's everything I wish a Fallout game was. And it's, again, there's obviously parallels to Firefly, and it's funny when it needs to be. It's serious when it needs to be. The combat is great. The graphics are great. It is a beautiful looking game. The fact that, what was it, that someone figured out a way to beat the game in 32 minutes or something, like to speedrun the game in 32 minutes by making the dumbest character possible.
Oh, geez.
And the developers didn't know that they could do that.
Yep.
There was actually a video of the developers watching the speedrun, and they all went, we didn't know that's what would happen.
I'm
That's
pretty
amazing.
sure, isn't there a way in that game where if you make your intelligence low but your wisdom, whatever those two stats are in that game, you can make your intelligence low and your wisdom high to the point where your character is literally playing dumb because you have the dumb dialogue option, but you also have the charisma. I can talk you into anything, so you can literally just go, and then people will just do stuff that they wouldn't do normally, but then you can also talk them into beating the end of the game because you're drunk enough. I'm sorry, that's just one of my favorite parts of 2018.
No, I love one of my favorite things about this game. This is probably one of my favorite memories of my first playthrough, and I think I only got halfway into the second playthrough. But my first playthrough is that I decided that I was going to take the negative perks in my first playthrough.
Yeah,
and the first one I decided I was going to take was the robophobia. And I didn't think about
you
this.
Foolish fool! cool.
Yeah. So, well, because I was like, you know what, I whatever. So, what I love about it is that again, eventually, you get a
robot,
sidekick
like
character.
Party member.
I can't go anywhere with that robot because my character becomes useless.
Oh, jeez.
It's just being around the robot, my character becomes useless in combat.
Yeah, because you get if you get hurt or in specific ways, you'll get the ability to take a phobia that, like, in this situation, it lowers X stats by Y, and then in return, you get a bonus skill point for that. So it's like you can put this perk point into making yourself more powerful in one way, but then if you're around like a robot, you'll lose like 2 dexterity, which makes you crappier at shooting things.
Yeah.
But that works even if the person is on your team.
Yeah,
So,
but what I loved about it is it has a dialogue option when you talk to the robot that is not there, I think, in any of the other playthroughs, which is just like that's literally all it is. It's just that's like the main dialogue thing.
That's so basic.
This game is absolutely incredible. It's absolutely incredible, and it's just the different ways that you could play it. Like I have tried min-maxing those Bethesda games, and I realized about halfway through it's like I don't even need to min-max this game. Like I want my character to be weak in some cases because they've literally written stories for your character flaws in this instead of building the world's most useless weapon customization system. Thank you very much, Fallout 4.
Yeah.
So,
but like I just love it because giving me this character flaw that actually does kind of hurt me. There's also comedy in it. Like they poke fun at the fact that you chose to accept this character flaw, and I fucking love it. And I love everything about it, and it's. I just had so much fun playing it, and it's definitely going to be one of those games that when I'm in a period of not having any new games to play and I want to play something, then I'm definitely going to go back to it.
yeah.
It's one of those games I will definitely replay at some point.
Also, Pavardi rules.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. No, she's great.
Everybody can suck it.
No, she is a sweet angel,
Uh-huh.
and you will protect her, and you will make sure her dates go right.
You will.
Or I swear to God.
The amount of time I spent on her dating side quest was probably more than I put into some of the main quests of the game. So
I said fuck the main story just to make sure that everything went perfect.
yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yep. Michael, number 2.
So my number 2 is going to be surprising because it is number 2 for most people, at least, which is Death Stranding is my number 2.
Number 2.
Death Stranding.
You could go number 2 in Death Stranding.
God damn.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
And you get to see a picture of Norman Reedus riding a motorcycle with Godzilla.
It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
No, what can I really say about Death Stranding? Death Stranding is an
I think
experience.
you could explain the entire plot and no one would still understand what is be spoiled.
It's an experience like unlike most other games I've played in ages because it reminds me of like a high budget version of Journey. Is a good way of putting it.
I can definitely see that.
Because Journey is very much about the connection with this person that you're never going to really talk to. And the game's kind of like that because there's constantly stuff around of different online people who are just helping each other out, and that's what I love about the game. There's no actual competition at all, except for putting down stuff because you're like, I'm gonna help you faster,
Or putting down a "Please don't pee here" sign in front of what's it, Coco's
Conan
O'Brien's place,
and then you just pee on it, and that's amazing. But yeah, there's just so much of that game. It's just like everything about it is just so well made. Like, well, the walking, like John said, sometimes I'll just sit there and just deliver things for like hours on end. And then when I was tired of delivering, I would find a base and beat up people as hard as I could.
I would sometimes forego the like vehicles stuff, like when I got like the upgrades to do zip lines and vehicles and stuff like that. I would forego that stuff just to walk.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like, fuck it, I don't care. I'm gonna walk this shit because I want to.
Yep.
It is one of the most soothing games I've ever played. Even when like an enemy comes at me, I still find myself giddy because it's just so much fun. Like that entire, like I don't like it's so difficult to explain the journey of Death Stranding from beginning to end. There's so much character beats that are just fascinating to see. Some of them are just heartbreaking. Some of them are just some great cheerful moments, and some of them are just like, what the fuck was that? But that's what Hideo Kojima is. That man is really good at that, and he's
the fucking dream sequences with in your base with BB.
Oh yeah.
Like what the fuck? All of those.
Yep.
They're amazing.
I will not be able to forget watching Guillermo del Toro get in the shower with Norman Reedus and make him uncomfortable while he does a Hideo Kojima plot exposition dump in the shower, so the man in the iron mask can't listen in. And that was after the baby in a jar peed on Guillermo del Toro.
This is like an hour or two in, by the way.
What sentence is this?
It's not even that far in the game.
No.
But yeah, there's so many like amazing things. There's the boss fights themselves like are so thrilling at times, but never too difficult. The weapons you get are so fascinating because they're not just like, oh, this is a gun that shoots things. It's like, no, this is a gun that shoots your blood at giant venom looking things and makes them fucking hate you. And the grenades made out of your own piss that you can just throw at things, including actual people, and it's the funniest goddamn thing on the planet.
Yep.
And I can't get enough of that game as much as like what there's so the reason it's not at the top of my list is purely because there's so many. It has a lot of flaws. Mm-hmm. The mountain areas specifically. The mountain area is a motherfucking fuck you sometimes. Like especially if you're not really good at traversing certain sections. But my God. I think it's one of the most important games that have come out in ages. And like John said earlier, I'm excited at everything Hideo Kojima does from this point on, even more than I was before, because this is him unfiltered. This is him without
better or for worse.
Konami over his shoulder going, that doesn't make any fucking sense. We need more guns.
Or not even that, but just shackled to Metal Gear. I mean, he's literally been chained to the canon of Metal Gear for, God, since the PlayStation, since the NES,
since the MSX, which is a system that does not exist in America.
Yeah,
kind of thing. Like this dude, he's been making the same series for over 30 years, and now he's finally
a few instances of being able to do something else.
Yeah, and he's finally able to fully do weird, different things with actors who are willing to also do these things, like Mads Mikkelsen and Guillermo del Toro and Norman Reedus, and that lady from, I can't remember the actress's name, but she's going to be in the new James Bond or whatever.
Oh, the one that played Fragile?
Yeah, like all of these people, like, and some of them aren't even like sure they're not voiced by them, but they're still got to use their likeness.
Yeah,
like the writer or director or whatever from Drive, as well, his character.
Yeah,
like there's so many
Nicholas Refn or whatever.
Yeah, there's so many fascinating story beats with everybody. Like there's not a single character in that game who I wasn't just like, I want to know more about you specifically, except for some of the people you deliver to. But that's the point for some of those guys, and some of those, and it's fascinating. Like this entire world, it feels lived in, even if there isn't that many people in it, and that's a difficult thing to pull off.
I agree. Yeah, and that's why Death Stranding is my number 2 as well. Yeah, everything that has already been said. Also, I will say. That you touched on it. Everybody has touched on it. I think that the multiplayer in this game is like I feel like a lot of people don't talk about it.
No,
and they should talk about it.
Yeah, you're right.
As you said, it's an empty world, but it doesn't feel lonely because the evidence of people is there. But they're literally other players. They're not even like NPCs making stuff, but they're other players in the game. After I beat the game, I literally found out there was also like a half a dozen people that were just, I didn't ever find them. I didn't go walking around exploring enough. Like there was a whole demo that was just a place that I just never went to. I think that Death Stranding is incredible, and I think that the moment that it became incredible for me was when I stopped trying to play it like the game that it looks like a third-person Metal Gear game. And I think that when I started playing it, I was getting irritated with it because I was trying to play it like a Metal Gear game, and it's not that. It's walking through this contemplative wilderness and having but you know what? You got to stay on your toes because there are venom ghosts and there are psycho UPS guys and like there is a crying baby to take care of, you know. I literally felt bad in that game when I tripped over a rock and the baby was stuck to my chest the entire time, started wailing at me through my controller, and I was like, "Aw."
Well, again, just to go back to it, the thing I said earlier, the dream sequences when you're in your bunker and you go up to the BB, and then there's like this dream sequence thing happens.
Yeah.
The first time it happened, because it doesn't tell you you're in a dream sequence, it just happens, and it's just like I was literally shaken, like, what the fuck just happened here?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I want to continue playing this game.
Or
like,
there's a part where you go to the mirror and the bad guy from the game is just, I don't know why he's here.
Amazing enough, it never happened in my game, but I remember watching it here with you during one of our Patreons, I think is what it was, when it happened. And it still hasn't happened in my game.
Yeah. I also think that in a lot of ways, I feel people are really, really, really talking a lot about Mads Mikkelsen and Norman Reedus and a lot of those people. I think Troy Baker is incredible in this game.
He's amazing.
great.
That I feel like he doesn't. I keep seeing, because Twitter has figured out that I like Hideo Kojima, and so it shows me stuff about him. I keep seeing all these red carpets with all the actors from the game, and I'm like, "Where's Troy Baker? You bring Troy Baker out, Hideo Kojima. I know what Troy Baker has done for you, specifically Hideo Kojima."
He's amazing. I love Troy Baker, and I got to meet him not that long ago at RTX, and he is tall. He's very, very tall.
Some really interesting boss fights, some really interesting things. I love the way the story in the game is teased out. How you keep finding out a little bit, but it really takes going all the way up to the end of the game for you to finally go over the falls, and you're like, oh, I guess I kind of understand what's going on now. I think that it's amazing the way that game takes you from walking to exoskeletons to motorcycles to trucks to building freeways to zip lines. I mean, just like as the course of that game, you are presented with a new biome that is harder to walk in, and you're presented with a solution to how to get through that biome now that you've done this thing. And it was absolutely amazing. I loved it. I played it, and then when I was done, I kept playing it, and I kind of would like to play it again. My only criticism, as I've said a bunch of times, is that I wish it was a little harder, because I think it's a little bit easy. So we've gotten all the way to the end of 2 hours, and there's only one game from 2019 that none of us have talked about. So I think it's pretty clear. You going to do this on 3? All right. Number 1. 1, 2, 3. Control. Yes. Okay.
Control. 100%. A billion times over. Control.
I would not have thought that would have been my answer.
I kind of knew.
Yeah. All right, John. What do you got to say about Control?
Well, first of all, I think it should be obvious because they've constantly said I am a self-proclaimed Remedy fanboy.
Yeah,
I love every goddamn thing they've ever done. Even their little iPad remake of Death Rally. I fucking love it.
Did not know that was a thing.
I don't even know what it is now.
So I love everything that they've done. So I went into this knowing I was going to like it. And then getting into it, first of all, it's one of those games that the controls feel good.
Oh yeah,
like shooting,
so good.
Everything feels good. It's one of those games that it tutorializes without tutorializing. Is one of the other things I kind of love about it, is that you're kind of just in it. You're from the get word go. You're just kind of you're in it. It doesn't give you time to really to kind of, and you kind of find stuff out as you're Excuse me. You kind of find stuff up as you're going, and it never is obtuse. In my opinion, it hits all the right tones of what it's shooting for. The graphics look really good. I played it on a regular PS4 that died, and then I got a PS4 Pro recently, and it plays better. A lot better on the PS4 Pro, and I love everything about it. This game, because I mean, it's first off, it's also if you look at the story from it's SCP Foundation, like that's everyone makes a reference that they're just pulling from the SCP Foundation,
sure, but that's the best part. I read the SCP Foundation articles for fun. So for the first time in a video game, the bullshit codex entries that I'm picking up off the ground are literally the creepypasta that I read on the internet.
Yeah.
It's the version of that. It's like, why the fuck didn't anybody else ever think about this? I didn't read anything in Alan Wake because I didn't want to read Alan Wake's Stephen King thing. I read everything I picked up in
So many
Control.
things.
Like,
Yeah, and I love that it doled out powers like at a like it wasn't it like it never. I never went to an area that I felt like I couldn't handle, and because every time I'd get to an area that would require a specific ability, I would actually get that ability probably right before I got there.
well, I feel like that was what you were talking about with the tutorialization.
Yeah.
It's like this is what a lot of games used to do, where they would give you a new power and then give you like an hour to fuck around and get used to that power and really get it integrated into your play style, and then give you a new power instead of just being like, here's 80 things. And you're like, well, which one's the most useful?
Yeah, and also, we've also talked about out of all of Remedy's games, my favorite game is Alan Wake.
Yeah.
I like many other people really want an Alan Wake 2. And what's amazing is there was a prototype for Alan Wake 2 a long time ago, and a lot of the seeds from that game are what Control is.
Yeah.
Because originally in Alan Wake 2, it was going to take place in a town called Ordinary. There were going to be characters from the Federal Bureau of Control that were going to be in that game that were going to be hunting Alan. And a lot of that stuff ended up being moved over into this game. And it's very clear this game takes place in the same world as Alan Wake.
Yeah.
And
It is super fucking clear.
yeah, and like there's little references to Alan Wake all throughout it. So that also, but you don't need to know those to
Right.
get them, which is what I also love about it. And also, I think it can be said there are two things that are the most badass things in the entire game that if not. Even without these things, it'd probably still be my number one. But I think because of these things, it pushes it to number one with a bullet.
Okay.
One, Threshold Kids.
Oh, fuck yeah. I knew you were going to say
Who
that.
doesn't like Threshold Kids?
and number two, the Ashtray Maze.
The Ashtray Maze is absolutely wonderful.
Yes. And
Oh, my God, yeah.
I fucking love it.
Yeah.
I live for it. And so I'm going to say something. And I'm trying not to be very clear on what the Ashtray Maze is.
Sure.
By saying this, but you know how what they made Alan Wake, and then they made Alan Wake American Nightmare, where they kind of turned the combat system of Alan Wake into like this weird kind of score battle thing, and then put a story around it to make it an actual like spinoff or whatever.
Right.
I want them to do something like that, but with the Ashtray Maze, to where gamify that section into a full game.
Yeah.
To where each section is a different thing that still is that same idea. And I would buy the shit out of that.
Michael, what do you got to say about Control?
There's so much about Control. Control is like if somebody was following me and then made a game based on my decisions. It's just every fucking, like, God, I'm such a big nerd for the paranormal kind of thing, or paranatural as it's called in the sort of world. And the idea of the whole secret government organization or whatever, and all the weird fucking shit that'll happen in a secret organization like that. There's explanations for everything in that fucking game. And I do mean everything. Like, why isn't there a brand name thing? Because the fucking building hates that shit.
Yep.
Why isn't there a smartphone? Because you'll fucking explode in your goddamn pocket.
Yep.
Like, everything has an explanation. Like, Jesse walks into this place. They're like, I don't know how I found this fucking place. And like a janitor's like, hey, I'm looking for assistant. And some shit just happens from there.
Yeah.
And just everything about the game, every mechanic works. The way you shoot feels great. You don't have to aim most of the time. You can play it kind of like an old Max Payne game kind of thing. All of the powers are fucking phenomenal. Every single one is given to you at a pace that makes sense. Every side quest is interesting. Like, I have never done this many side quests this fast in a game in a long time. Like,
I've actually almost 100% of this game.
I think I'm only like one thing away from 100%ing it when I borrowed it from you.
We found out we were trying to clean up some side quests last week. Amanda and I were doing it, and turns out that there's a side quest that has a Japanese voice that's like talking.
Oh yeah,
and
it's Hideo Kojima,
and then it's being like translated, and then people in the comments were like, I Jeff, did you know the Japanese voice in this part of Control is Hideo Kojima? And I'm like, no, I didn't think I could like this game more, but I do now.
Everything about it.
Yeah, it was kind of they put Kojima's voice in it, and then Kojima used Sam Lake as one of the people in one of the
in Death Stranding.
Yeah.
Every fucking thing in that game, like every single thing, every the threshold kids had me fucking both dying and being fucking creeped the fuck out all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot hear no interruptions without giggling to myself.
Everyone wants the big chair, Meg.
It's so fucking, oh my god. They are the masters of randomly adding live action shit in the middle of stuff. Like there was a part towards the end of the game where the actor for Alan Wake does something magical, and I don't want to spoil it in any way, but my god, when it happens, I was enthralled. I stood there and I just waited for it to end because I couldn't stop. Like everything about that game, I literally just found myself walking around just to see if I could find everything.
Yeah.
Like I was desperate. I was fucking hungry for codexes in this fucking place. Some of the funniest goddamn things I've ever read are in this thing, and some of the most interesting things I've ever read are in this thing. Mm-hmm. And some of them are connected to actual, like, creepypasta things or actual events that had happened at some point. Like this one's really early on, but there's a point where they talk about like blaming something on an embassy attack using sound waves or some shit.
Yeah.
And they're super excited. They're like, it was just the perfect fucking thing to blame it on kind of thing.
Yep.
But I'm like, I actually remember that was an actual news story, like not that long ago kind of thing. And I was just like, this game just gets me.
It plays in conspiracy and
also Jessie, the actress who plays Jessie, she's in Quantum Break, but she is the main character of this game. And she fucking just nails everything.
Yeah, she's really good.
I think that I knew that this game was going to be special from the first 10 minutes when Jesse walks into the building, walks into the director's office, he shoots himself in the head, she picks up the gun, and then somehow tries to shoot her own self in the head. It doesn't, and now she's the director, and all of the pictures are changed, and you run this joint now, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but I want to, and I will play as much of this game as humanly possible. And then as it goes on,
you meet the janitor, and he's fucking amazing. Auntie is great.
Oh, I love that
I've
guy.
never wanted to know more about a universe from just about any game this year, or I guess this game has shown me just enough of this universe, but held enough back that I'm like, I would read a book that was set in this universe. I would watch a TV show that was set in this universe. I would literally, if you give me anything about this universe, I would eat it up. And because there are things that happen in this game that are kind of inexplicable, and I don't know why they happen, but I want to. And I like the fact that there's just a lot of fucking with you, the player. The other thing,
there's a really good attention to detail in the game,
100%
as well.
Yeah, I love. There's a place where you go into a mirror and everything is backwards, including all the text on the screen, and I'm like, good job, video game. Like
they do such a good job.
Not only that, but it's also, and I really can't stress this enough, visually striking.
Oh yeah,
like the brutalist architecture and the way that they use colors in the different areas. Like I've never been in a building that was so beige and brown and gray, but that was also like I knew exactly where I was at all times. I like the way that the progression of difficulty with the hiss goes up. I love the way that it's got a random drop like equipment system, but it totally works on top of everything else. And almost, though, more than anything else, I think that this game might have the most good feeling and useful throwing things at people mechanic I have ever seen in any video game ever.
Not since the first Force Unleashed game.
I don't even...
And I think it surpasses it.
I think it's better than that.
I'm just saying that was the last game that had a satisfying one.
Yes.
And then I'm like... What was wrong with that game?
That's what makes Fallen Order even more disappointing. Because Control's just like, I know how to make the Force badass.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah, you mind trick and you force throw and,
It's amazing. Everything.
I mean, when you point your reticle at an enemy and hit the R1 button to throw something, the fact that you don't have to wait for it to come to you, so you can just let go of it, and suddenly an office chair hits a demon in the face because it just came from the other side of the room. Great. This game lets you fly halfway through the game, and it doesn't break anything. It just gives you the opportunity to go find more things that you didn't even find.
And there's tons of hidden areas.
Ceiling.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's tons of hidden areas and things like that,
That's
and
so
it's
good,
great.
guys.
Yep.
So there's one thing I really love about this game, and again, it goes back to the attention to detail.
Yeah.
Like there's, and just to kind of give people an example, there's a thing where you collect like these little papers, like dossiers or whatever. Like one of them is a book club. Where,
Oh, yeah, the
and
book club
people
was
are
great.
all, and the thing about the book club is kind of funny when you actually realize what's going on. But in one of the book club reviews is talking about how the guy didn't really like that this one character died in this really stupid and inconsequential way, and he was his favorite character in the book. And then if you're paying attention to where you pick that up, and you look next to where is a guy who died by getting hit in the head with one of those little information tubes. He's got it like embedded into his head, and his name tag is visible on his face, and it's the guy who wrote the review. He died in a stupid, inconsequential way that ties right back to like that you wouldn't notice if you just read the dossier and walked off.
Yeah.
But if you actually read it, looked at where it's placed, and looked right next to it, you see how that guy died in this really stupid way that is unimportant.
Yeah, a lot of the dossiers are like that. They'll mention something, and you'll just look around, and you're like, oh, there's the thing he's talking about. kind of thing.
And it's great.
Yep.
They're the best at that.
100% agree. And it's funny because I think that, again, if you
Welcome
write
to the
down
Control podcast.
It's so good, guys, because seriously.
if you write down what Control is on paper, I don't think it seems as special as it ends up being in execution.
Yeah.
That between Jesse, and not just Jesse, but all of the different characters who work at the building, and then the various AWEs. There's, I suddenly halfway through a game about shooting these weird red-tinged paramilitary guys, fucking monsters start appearing, and you're like, oh shit. But this game is exactly what I wanted, and all I want is more. And the fact that there's DLC coming out for it this year, I don't think I've been this excited for DLC, because I just want to see where it goes next.
Yeah.
Like, it's absolutely incredible, and I absolutely love it. So, do we want to do some honorable mentions?
Okay, sure.
So we got some honorable mentions before we kick out here. Why don't we do these kind of a little faster since we're already over time? John, what you got for honorable mentions?
I mean, a lot of them were stuff that I think you and Michael mentioned, like like Luigi's Mansion 3, or Katana Zero, or
Katana Zero's on my list as well.
or My Friend Pedro.
Yeah,
things like that are definitely on my an Ape Out or on my honorable mention, because they're just really fucking great games.
Yeah, Katana Zero was really close to getting to the bottom of my list, but it just didn't end very well.
So because it ended with this is actually a prequel to the real game we're making.
Right.
We hope to make it someday.
Yes.
Like, the fact that it ended like that was just kind of like, well, you still made a really good game. And it's honestly one of my favorite games that we played. I don't remember if it was a dojo or if it was a
stream
a Patreon thing.
Yeah.
But we played, and I was doing all the stupid voices for it. Actually, it was a dojo, because it was in the best of the year list, because I actually purposely had you put it on there because I love doing the stupid voices for all the characters in that,
right,
with the skinny Rickies and the and all that. And yeah, it was probably my favorite time playing a video game on Rage Select in 2019.
Okay. Yeah, makers of Katana Zero, if you need a voice actor for Katana Zero 2,
I will do it. I will do it all. I will do every voice.
He'll do every voice. You heard him.
Go watch that video. You'll see. I did like most of them.
Michael, what you got?
Well, Ape Out is definitely was the top of my honorable mentions. In fact, if Ghostbusters wasn't on there, it probably would have been number 10. Travis Strikes Again came out last year. I'm a big fan of the No More Heroes universe, and I'm really glad that they could continue it on. Mobile Suit Gundam Battle Operation 2.
I forgot to put that on my list.
Is on my honorable mention because it caught me the fuck off guard.
Yep.
And I fucking had so much fun with that game. Metal Wolf Chaos, the re-release of Metal Wolf Chaos. I didn't put that on there only because I didn't finish it.
Yeah.
I got really far in it, but my God, it's as stupid as I expected.
Richard!
And I love every moment of it. I already mentioned My Friend Pedro earlier. This one is actually kind of surprising because I didn't expect to like this as much as I did, but I bought it on Black Friday. The Power Rangers Battle for the Grid fighting game.
Yeah.
Because holy shit, that game is actually a ton of fucking fun.
Oh, it's a very competent
I ended up buying the DLC packs for it because I was just like, I need more Power Rangers to beat up. And so, my God, it's just so much fun. And it's so simple. Like, it's just a 3-button thing and a button for special, for essentially your Hadouken button, depending on your direction. And it just plays really well, and it has a tiny story mode based on the Battle for the Grid comic story. And it's just a lot of fun. And it doesn't cost a lot either, so it's I think it was more than worth it.
All right. Let's see. I got the Devil May Cry Katana Zero. We talked about this. I put Fire Emblem Three Houses on here. I forced myself to finish Fire Emblem Three Houses. I liked Fire Emblem Three Houses. Fire Emblem Three Houses does not need to be 80 fucking hours long. I was tired of it by the time I got to the end. In the beginning, I really enjoyed interacting with the students in this long-form story. And then as time went on, it got into a grind where I was just doing the same thing every month. And I think that's a problem. And
now you get to use them in Smash.
Darksiders Genesis. I really, 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 really like Darksiders Genesis. I didn't actually think it got all the way up there because it was a little glitchy, but as a new Darksiders game, and especially because I didn't really like Darksiders 3 as much as 1 and 2, I liked the Strife Darksiders war relationship. If this game is the Strife game, I feel like it is complete enough, long enough, and tells enough of a story that I would take it as the Strife game if that's what they are going to do. And River City Girls was...
that should have been on my list.
Man, I didn't know that I wanted this before I played it, and then it was like, wow, you did it. You guys really pulled it off. It's funny. It's a very good beat 'em up. It's a great spiritual successor to River City Ransom. And I think it was...
It's also got a lot of great cameos in it.
Yeah.
From a lot of Double Dragon characters.
Yep. It was genuinely really, really fun to play, and I really enjoyed it.
I need to play that game.
It's so much fun.
It's really good. And I think that's it. I think we're done. So we only went 20 minutes over.
I call that an absolute win.
Yeah. So 2019, we're maybe going to talk about some things of the decade. We don't have time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. So yes. Before we check out here, mail@rageselect.com is the email address to send in some questions. Normally we answer those. I tell you what, if you disagreed or you got your own list, tell us your list. I want to know, especially if it's things that were not mentioned here, because I feel like we did a pretty good spectrum of both good, bad, and in the middle of
I feel like
everything.
there's plenty of stuff we didn't mention, too.
Yeah.
2019 was full of games.
It was. Nobody talked about the Division 2. Did nobody like the Division 2?
I don't think we did.
Okay.
Maybe Gears 5, maybe? I don't know.
Well, John had Gears
John
5.
It, yeah.
On my list of games I didn't play but probably should have.
I actually played that game all the way to the end, and it was okay. Not enough for an honorable mention, and not enough for a game that I didn't finish. It was...
Was Crackdown 3 this year? Or was that last
Yeah,
Crackdown
Death Factory
3
was also this year.
Was also this year. That was on my list.
I thought that was good. Again, I don't think it was perfect, but I don't think it needed to be.
If I had to pay any amount of money for it, I probably would have had a problem. But
Yeah.
Game Pass polls.
Game Pass. There you go. One last Game Pass mention before we're done. Go check out Michael over at oneofus.net, and we'll see you next week for more of a podcast.